Lights out and away we go. Oh my goodness! They're down in a hurry, cycling away from the traffic. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the UK sim racing community's GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today marks round 5 of 10, the concluding round of the first half of the season, and where better to host such a round than the legendary Le Mans circuit in France, a circuit that recently celebrated its centenary of the infamous 24-hour Le Mans race, and the circuit more formally referred to as the Circuit 24-hour Du Mans in reference to said race. It is a circuit which is unrelenting on driver and machine. Consisting of 33 corners and spanning the best part of 8.5 miles in length, it is a circuit that will see drivers racing at 75% of the lap being at full throttle into some of the heaviest braking zones known to man on Earth. And through it all, their machines will be put through reliability tests and also test the reliability of the driver in terms of their ability to be consistently reliable over the circuit and indeed over each and every lap they turn in order to bring on home for victory. This is a round not for the faint-hearted, and therefore we're expecting this one to be a highly dramatic round, and it could be a round that turns things around in the championship standings. Indeed, the tables may be turned, and much like the circuit being a historical circuit in the fact it has been the site of many a memorable moment in motorsport, perhaps most recently Ferrari's return to Le Mans, and with it their return to the top on their return to racing at the infamous 24-hour race. Could this be the scene tonight of some historical moments within the series, and could we perhaps see some championship defining moments take place? All that and more is due to come, but as we get ready to go racing today, we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side here at the Le Mans circuit in France, and you're watching it via the official broadcast only available on the UK Sim Racing at Twitch channel. That's at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. In the quarantine booth you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action tonight and indeed over the entirety of the season. And well, speaking of the season, let's come to our calendar and remind you where we are currently and what we still got left out in terms of those rounds. In the fact, we've got plenty of racing still to come, and today is just one example of that. For as we can see, we started off all the way back on the 17th of September on round number 1 with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And there we got off to a fast and frantic start in the US of A, with the GTP Pro class in particular being ram-packed with battling from start to finish, with 5 drivers eligible for the win, but only one could take victory in the end. And well, after what was a brilliant opener, we really got to see the best of multi-class racing. And that trend continued into round number 2, where in Japan on the 24th of September we got to see plenty more multi-class action. But it was the turn of the GT3s to be battling hard, and perhaps most notably in the GT3 AM class, the closing stage of the race being dominated by the battle for the win between Satinder Dienster from Tiki Simsport and Lawrence Marsh, with Dienster coming out on top by the smallest of margins. Then round number 3, it was the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and on the 1st of October at a circuit that is infamous for its ability to generate fantastic endurance-based racing, particularly when it comes to multi-class racing. We got to see our drivers battle their way on through, and it really was the arrival of Paul Busby on the scene for Effect Simulations, who whilst in the first 2 rounds have been no slouch by any means, absolutely dominated in the 420 car. You could say he blazed the field in that round, and then we had our mid-season break. Round number 4 saw us return on the 15th of October for the Watkins Glen International Circuit in the US of A, and we got to see there at the much shorter circuit last time out that whilst it wasn't as long as the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, the length of the circuit did not matter when it came to the close-knit racing. racing. We had spoils, we had drama and multiple incidents, but we also had some absolutely brilliant battles, and we got to see our fourth winner in 4 rounds in the GTP Pro class with Ben Cullen taking the win. And meanwhile, in the other classes, we got to see Darren Norcat absolutely dominate in the GTP AM class, and the GT3 classes we got to see in the Pro class the continued run of Heroldus Strutatus, who extended his lead up front despite Eric Rosev taking the win on strategy there. And in the GT3 AM class, we got to see a complete mix-up in the field. Indeed, many a driver struggling, but not Mark Collicott, who made it 2 wins in a row and is indeed right now on the rise. But as we head into today is the 22nd of October. It's a fine Sunday evening for us all here in the United Kingdom, and wherever you are in the world on this Sunday, we've got plenty of races to come at the French circuit of the 24th of Le Mans. And after today, we'll be heading straight into the second half of the season with round number 6 on the 29th of October being the Sebring International Raceway. We return to the US, particularly the state of Florida, for a circuit that is synonymous in the US for multi-class racing, with its bumpy road surface and its combination of concrete and tarmac all coming together. And that round's going to be brought to you by a post-round broadcast the day after due to scheduling circumstances. But whilst that broadcast won't be live from circuit side, it'll be as close as possible to the Royal Live experience, so don't be dismayed. And in the remainder of the season, we'll be all live from circuit side, starting with round number 7 and the Autodromo Nacional Monza. And in Italy on the 5th of November, it really will be the story of the need for speed on Italy's long straights there at the Monza circuit. And our second mid-season break in honour of what will be at the 8 Hours of Fuji official iRacing event. And then we return for the concluding 3 rounds of the season, starting on the 19th of November at the Royal Bill Ring circuit in Austria with round number 8. Round number 9 then will then follow with the Daytona International Speedway as we return to the US of A for the 4th and final time this season, and back to the state of Florida as well. And no championship campaign is complete without a win at Daytona, it must be said, on the 26th of November. And in our finale on the 3rd of December, we bring it all to a close at the home of British motor racing. That's right, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit for round 10 of 10. And what a way to go out of a bang at the end of the season. But we've still got plenty to go today, and let's come into today in terms of our circuit, and it is none other than the Circuit des 24 Hours de Mans, located near the city of Le Mans, from which it takes its name in terms of its colloquialism, and located in the French department of Sarthe in the region of Pays de Loire. This circuit, as you can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thanks to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, is a circuit which contains multiple extended straights. But it's more than just its long straights around it. You have a wide variety of sweeping corners, you have multiple elevation changes, you have hairpins, you have sharp right angle corners. Everything you could name is here on this circuit, and as our drivers make the way around over the course of the 8.46 miles, they'll get a feel for what it's like to take on a circuit which many argue in the real world of motorsport, indeed the world of simulated motorsport, is not a circuit you finish the race at, it's a circuit you outlast the race at. And even over an hour of racing tonight, I can assure you many will feel that way. Whereas they make their way across the start finish line and up the hill through the Dunlop curve from turn number 1 up towards the Dunlop chicane of turns 2 and 3, it's a continued uphill rise there through the chicane as they charge their way through the first heavy braking zone and then over the crest at 4 and down into the S's at turns 5, 6 and 7. As they come out of turn number 7, they'll go full throttle and spit the cars out into the run to Tetra Rouge, and as they come through the sweeping right hander which makes or breaks the run onto the first part of the Mulsanne straight, our drivers will make their way through the kinks of 9 and 10 and onto the first section of Mulsanne. Now charging away down there, they'll find there's 2 chicanes nowadays, whereas previously up towards what was the end of the 90s it was 1 long straight, but the chicanes added as a safety measure due to the fact the aerodynamics of prototype cars in the 90s saw many a car take lift off, and perhaps the most infamous incident being Mark Webber in the Mercedes CLK GTR going high into the sky and thankfully able to emerge from the incident relatively unscathed. But we're hoping not to see anything like that today, and that's why the chicanes are here in modern day racing. And as our drivers will make their way into the first Mulsanne chicane at turn number 11, and we're battling on the brakes there. But as they exit, it'll then be a slipstream orientated run down the second part of the Mulsanne straight, once again to the second chicane at turn number 12, and as they come on through and out onto the kink of 13, it's the flat out run into Mulsanne corner at turns 14 and 15, and known as Mulsanne corner in reference to the local village there at the corner. And indeed this circuit is raced on multiple roads as used by residents in the local area, so it is a road racing circuit with multiple bumps, and you'll see plenty of road markings on the circuit to denote where it is actually used by businesses and everyday commuters. But as they come out of Mulsanne corner, then the final long straight, the run through kinks of 16 and 17 and into Indianapolis, the legendary right into the left-hander there, it's all about getting the curvature of turn number 18 right, but carrying the speed and trail braking your way into Indianapolis corner at turn number 19. And as our drivers make the way through, they come into the hardest corner on the circuit, on Arge, the turn 20 hairpin, where it's all about that late apex. We get it too late and you'll understeer wide and potentially into the gravel or worse into the tyre barrier. But make it out there, you then make your way into the back straight and the route towards the Porsche curves through the kinks of 21 and 22 22, and the aforementioned curves there through 23, 24, 25. It's the right-hander followed by the sweeping double left, and in to the right-hander at 26, which sets up our drivers in the run through. The Corvette curves at 27, 28, and 29, where it's all about making sure to stay within track limits, and we could see some slowdowns there. Well, they make their way into the final four corners, the Ford chicanes, the legendary final pair of chicanes, where our drivers will find the average apex speed winding down rapidly, and by the end of it all, at turn number 33, they'll be in first or second gear, emerging onto the start-finish straight to only do it all over again. Well, if that doesn't sound tiring, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, our drivers will be exhausted after one lap. This will be a test of stamina. But before we go racing, let's give you a reminder of the rules. In terms of car setup, as we can see in bold red today, drivers are no longer permitted to change their car as of the conclusion of round number 4, so it does mean our drivers are locked into their machines now, and we'll have to see how they fare for the remainder of the season. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 100% as always for the GTP class, and 70% for the GT3 class, and in terms of qualifying, an open qualifying format shall be used, lasting 30 minutes are split into 2 equal halves. The first 15 minutes you'll see our prototype class, the GTP's out on circuit, and then the second 15 minutes will be for the GT3 class. And drivers may not reset to the pit lane during the session. If they do, they shall no longer be permitted to take part in qualifying, and as we'll talk about in a little bit, this is going to lead to some very interesting qualifying strategies, and this could be the biggest talking point of today before we go into the race in terms of how our drivers take their approaches to qualifying. Now, going on to the race itself, the race shall commence via a single file rolling start in a designated start zone. We have a slightly different rule in place today, given the fact that if we went with the automated rolling start procedure, the double file start, our drivers would be going double file through the Ford chicanes, which is far too tight for them to be able to negotiate safely. So instead, it will be single file through the chicanes, but if the class leader does permit the field to return to double file formation in the start zone, which comes out of the final corner and all the way out to the start finish line, then they may start the race under double file, but they have been guided to start the race as single file. And when the GTP class begins their race, the GT3 class must hold formation until the GT3 leader enters start zone. And in terms of there being mandatory pit stops, there are none, but we are expecting there to be a couple of pit stops today, given that the length of the race and also the fuel loads. Now, each driver has one fast repair available, and all race journeys shall be conducted post-race, as is the norm of the UK Sim Racing leagues. And as we can see, a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 23 or more instant points. But as we return to our live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you for our schedule for today. Times in British Summertime, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 3 minutes time approximately, we'll be going into that qualifying session, 30 minutes in duration, and it could be destiny today for some to be on pole. And can they run away with things when we do go racing immediately after at 8:30, and that'll be 60 minutes for our feature race. Well, all that and more is to come, but it's a lovely day here in Le Mans. Ambient temperature 26 degrees centigrade, the same for track temperature as well. You couldn't ask for better conditions here. A nice gentle wind also blowing across the circuit, and clear skies to boot, albeit humidity a little bit high, and that could have an effect on how our drivers cope with the conditions, but everybody absolutely set here, and as they are, and we do look to our fastest driver in this final practice warm-up session currently of Joshua Wilson for Effect Simulations, the one that driver currently at Effect Simulations in the GTP Pro class who's yet to pick up a win. Busby's picked up a win, and so has Cullen, but not Joshua Wilson, and he'll be looking to do so today. He has had a season rife with misfortune, particularly in the rounds 2 and 3, with the failing throttle pedal in round number 2 at Fuji, and then round number 3 that brake failure as well. And can Wilson today overcome all the difficulties he had and put himself right up the front there? We'll be hoping to do so, there's no doubt about it, but he'll be one of many gunning for gold today. Another will be Cy Anthony there, the privateer, making his way on through and continue to run the special livery there on the car as he makes his way on around in the number 38. And thank you once again for all the support that you guys and girls have provided as of our last round as part of the Katie Lusto tribute, and indeed they're the race for Katie, really being heartfelt within the community, and thank you very much for being in support. I can tell you one thing, Paul Lusto, her father, was absolutely proud to have been part of the UK Sim Racing community and to see that unfold at Watkins Glen, and we just wanted to say one big thank you to you all for tuning in and contributing to that as of last round. But here today we do have some special tributes running on the cars, albeit for perhaps a slightly different cause, and particularly at Tiki Sim Sport. We'll talk more about that in due course. But as we look from our GTP Pro drivers, we look to our GTP AM drivers, and the fastest AM driver in the prototype class currently is this man from Tiger Racing Team, the 262 driver of David Rellston, as he makes his way on through that wonderful livery there, already bringing the Tiger stripes to life, and well, he'll be looking to roar, there's no doubt about it, and prey on his rivals in the Cadillac today as he gets ready to go in the V-Series machine. But meanwhile, 6.5 tenths off him, Salvatore Guariento, albeit the Porsche 963 driver in the pits at the moment, and well, as you can see, they're parked up currently getting ready to go, albeit obscured a little bit by the Tiki Ferrari 296 GT3. But Guariento, one of those drivers, is really finding his form. And this GTP AM class, interestingly, continues to be shaken up in the fact that the fastest drivers in the class continue to be promoted to the GTP Pro class. We saw the promotion of what was, I do believe, unless my memory does serve me incorrectly, the promotion of Sam Sherwood as of last week, and this week Darren Norquette has been moved into the Pro class, so it really has opened up the field for the likes of Guariento and coming back to Rolliston here to try and see if they can dominate proceedings today and establish themselves up the top. But it's not just about what's going on in the GTP class, we also have our GT3s out there, including Hekon Gustad for Ignium Motorsport. Always great to see him out there, the Norwegian driver in the number 37 Ferrari 296, and will yet to pick up a win this season, but continue to try and chase down those wins. It has been a difficult season thus far, and he's even admitted that himself. Indeed, a number of people have asked, where isn't he right up the top of the standings there? And the level of the competition has been incredibly intense this season. There's no doubt about it so far. It's not as though Hekon's not trying, ladies and gentlemen, but he is being made to try harder and harder with each and every race. And, well, as our drivers all make their way into the pits, it's time for us to go into the qualifying session. Who will come out on pole? Let's find out. But as the 30 minutes get underway, and immediately we start off with GTP qualifying as per the rule set, and we see our drivers making their way out the pit lane now. We do have a few new drivers to introduce on the grid today, and we also do say hello to a good number of you in the Twitch chat, including but not limited to Linscombe there, who wishes good luck to all races. We also say hello there to Divide_Rule, who says good evening all. Not many people here tonight, have we just started? Well, we have recently just started at the broadcast, so it does seem as though right now we might be having a few people tune on in. We also do have a slight conflict with the US Formula 1 Grand Prix that's currently being undertaken at the moment, so a good number of our drivers opting to use that as a drop score reason for tonight, and understandable, of course, personal circumstances come up. But as we do see Alex Hill make his way on through there, runs very wide, needs to pick up an automated slowdown immediately coming out of Tetra Ridge, but of course being an outlap here, it's not going to affect him too much. We're going to have to be careful of that when he goes into the qualifying lap. We also say hello to Adrian at the Great there, and also to Billy Bob 55, who's saying racing again, got deep vein thrombosis, so struggling a bit, right foot braking and hoping just to make it to the end and score some points. Well, very sorry to hear that, Billy Bob. That's Billy Bob Ray, and we see him here out on circuit currently. And well, I can't say I've experienced deep vein thrombosis, but from speaking to people who have in the past, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it is not something you ever want to suffer from. It is very, very painful and uncomfortable, and the fact that Billy Bob Ray is on the grid today and giving it his all, will be having to do right foot braking, well, we wish him all the best luck, and that is a true soldier spirit right there. And well, you've got to give a brief round of applause already for the Scotsman as he makes his way out of the first bowl zone chicane. And what do we mean by right foot braking? Indeed, for those of you who perhaps don't do sim racing or real world motorsport, and perhaps don't follow it closely enough, when you drive a car on a road, normally if you're driving an automatic, you'll only use your right foot typically to use the throttle pedal and also to do the brakes. And well, if you drive a manual, you'll use your left foot sometimes to do the clutch, but normally you'll end up using your right foot to do the brakes and the throttle. However, in sim racing and motorsport, you find that most of the braking is done with the left foot, and also clutch and gear change to the result. Meanwhile, your right foot is used purely for the throttle. And I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that when you do everything on your right foot, the delay between you being on the throttle and then going onto the brake is noticeable compared if you're doing it right to left foot in terms of right foot throttle, left foot braking, and therefore Billy Bob Ray today might be feeling as though he's at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of that quick transition. But again, we do know he's one of those drivers that's able to overcome even the hardest of circumstances as he makes his way into the braking zone here. We also say hello to Medmo, or Matt Edmondson, the GT3 driver who's currently in the pit lane waiting to go, albeit having to be patient. Now, as our drivers make their way on around, we said there's some newcomers on the grid today, and here is one of them. It is none other than Andrew Dawson, or Andy to his close friends, and as he makes his way on through there, the Effect Simulations driver making his way on through, albeit running the traditional Cadillac B-Series livery here in the yellow trim, as he makes his way out of the first mile zone chicane. And, well, Dawson needs no introduction, needs a very fast drive. I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, any simulator he's been on, whether it be from Gran Turismo Sport all the way out to iRacing, he has been a highly successful and decorated sim racing professional driver, and therefore we look forward to seeing what he's able to do here today, being part of the Effect Simulations crew, really bolstering their team. And well, could he pull off a surprise win here today on his debut in the season? We will have to wait and see, but he is one of a couple of new drivers in the prototype class. We also do have as a debutant in the GTP AM class, none other than Ollie Pimley. And well, here is Ollie Pimley as he makes his way on down the run towards Indianapolis, and he's running there in the number 765 car, and he'll be racing for the team known as DY13 Racing, and he's running in the Cadillac as well. The Cadillac, a very popular choice this season, indeed a very fast car on the straights, and that's going to bode very well for this car going into the race today at Le Mans, and we wish him and Dawson all the best luck as they make their debuts. And can they spring some huge surprises in class, or will they find themselves having to battle uphill from the outset? Well, that's always the question here, and joining midway through the season. But we also have some newcomers in the GT3 class, and we'll reserve the conversation about them until the GT3s are out of the circuit, if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, as we do have our first flying laps now getting underway with our GTP drivers. We'll get a bit further up the road. We're currently focusing on those still on their warm-up laps, including Austin William Campbell, a great set of Symphonix driver out there, going on through the Porsche curves right now, getting himself all set up and racing in the Acura. And coming on to this qualifying session, and why it's going to be an interesting one tactically today. Now, typically what we've seen in qualifying with the 15 minutes is that our drivers have a multitude of laps to be able to put themselves on pole. But keep in mind that rule where our drivers are not allowed to tow themselves to the pits when they're out on circuit. They must come into the pit lane, and then they're allowed to tow back to their garage once they've actually pulled across the pit entry line. Now, the reason why this changes things in qualifying here today is because even in the prototype class, you are looking at a lap of over 3 minutes. You're looking at approximately 3.5 minutes. And what that means is, with a 15-minute qualifying session, plus the overtime permitted, of course, come the end of the 15-minute session for our drivers to finish their current laps, they're only going to be able to get the out lap in, and then approximately 2 to 3 laps, if that. But then also consider these prototypes have to charge their batteries, and they've only got enough battery at full charge in order to be able to do 2 full flying laps, and therefore they need to think about whether they're going to fully commit to back-to-back laps, or whether, as we see there, Austin William Campbell getting it wrong, that lap will be immediately invalidated through Tech Rouge, and now to get himself set up for the next lap. Whether we see some drivers only invest in a single lap today, or whether they put all the fuel in the car and perhaps 2 warm-up laps and then go for 2 flying laps back-to-back, and that's why we could definitely see a shake-up here with regards to this qualifying session. The fact, and it will be the same in the GT3 class, with the lap times there being closer to the 4-minute margin, in the fact that our drivers will not have time to really come into the pit, make changes to set up all the tyres on the car, or put some more fuel in. Instead, they need to be out there for as much time as possible and get the laps done, or if they do decide to come into the pits, they'll know they've got very limited time afterwards to get any further laps in, and we could see quite a shake-up in the grid order when we do go green flag racing. But still, we'll have to see how they all work it on out here. And the rumour I've been hearing down the paddock for our GTPs, a lot of drivers really focusing on staying out on circuit for the entire qualifying session and using the initial out lap plus also a further warm-up lap to get the car in full trim and really make sure that battery is charged up, and perhaps pushing the battery a little bit on the main warm-up lap after the out lap, just to see where the grip's starting to form, and then they'll do 2 full attack laps. Other drivers, meanwhile, deciding to go warm-up lap, attack lap, and then deciding to cool it off, charge the battery back up and go for 1 final attack. And it's those quandaries which we'll keep keeping our eyes on as we do look here to Alexander Trevino-Mikkelsen, the Racing Lab Esports driver, making his way out of what is their turn number 20, coming out of the large corner. Behind him there is Salvatore Guariento in the infamous Rothmans Porsche 963 livery as they make their way up towards the Porsche curves here. And will the Porsche curves being the site of many a Porsche car getting it wrong in the 24 Hour Le Mans earlier this year, and it really was a misfortunate day with regards to the Porsche cars in their 75th anniversary of motorsport. But will Porsche be able to have a better day on the simulator today? That is the big question, as we look to Guariento roaring his way there on through the Porsche cars. Lovely to see this 963 being represented. He may be the sole 963 on the grid outside of Paul Joseph Cliss for Olympus Esports, who we haven't seen on the grid for the last couple of rounds, unfortunately. But still Guariento keeping this car well and truly alive. We also do have some BMW hybrids out there as well, in the form of Rudy Avitsland and Organ Hegeseta. And as our drivers make their way across the timeline for the first time, who is going to get a good time on the board is the question. Well, Guariento there, he goes provisional pole in the GTP class. He puts the boundary there of 3:24.220, something he'll be feeling as though it's going to be a target for him to beat, plus many other drivers to beat, as Billy Bob Ray only 2.5 tenths off by comparison, and 2.5 tenths is nothing around here in terms of time you can make up on a subsequent lap given the length of the lap. It all comes down to a particular corner exit, and if we get it wrong coming out of Tech Rouge onto the first Mulsanne straight, that can be worth 3 or 4 attempts in its lonesome. As our drivers carry on through here, more times coming on through, but meanwhile we do look to Austin William Campbell in the Acura as he makes his way down towards the Ford chicane. We're going to very shortly jump on board Austin William Campbell as he looks to get his first flying lap on the board, making his way on through there. And now let's ride on board for a full flying lap here in the 6th end of the machine. So he makes his way up towards the Dunlop curve here, going in towards turn one, full attack mode in the car now, and into the right hand, and keep the car to the left hand side, flat out here, full commitment, and then turning sharply onto the right hand apex curve, and braking nice and early there, trail braking down to the first gear as he rolls from left into right through the Dunlop chicane, and back on the throttle and roll the car up the hill towards turn number 4. Over the rise he goes, and now down into the S's, into turn one, flat out through here, keep the car into the right, and then sharply onto the brakes here, down to third gear, 2 gears down, now flat out through turn number 7, up towards Tetrage, use the runoff space there, and now going into the braking zone here, it's just a lift off for the prototypes as he drops the full gear, just keeps 2 wheels on the exit curve there, that'll be permitted, and now flat out all the way down the Mulsanne straight, the first part of the wedge, and look at the speed of there, already up to 189 miles now, in excess of 190 now as he's got the Tava car in front as well. This is going to be an incredibly fast run. Could we see him hit 200 miles an hour? He does indeed, 202 miles an hour as he heads down towards the braking zone here, 203, and now sharply onto the anchors, 250 metres of corner apex, down to second, down to first, and now back up the gearbox he goes. No more toe for Austin William Campbell. That was absolutely blazing quick for the first third of the lap, and now make its way down towards the second chicane, brings the car a bit more over to the right here in order to set up the width of the road, and many of our drivers will be looking to try and keep the car in the middle of the road as they make their way on down, but not Austin William Campbell over to the right, and as he heads down towards the next braking zone, past the golf course, which is hidden behind the barriers, he'll then head onto the anchors here, braking out 200 metres of corner apex, trail braking into the second chicane, all the way down to first gear, and now powering out here, clattering it over the curve as he exits, and up towards the kink of 13. Now making his way past the local woodland and up towards turn number 14, he goes in towards Mulsanne corner. It's been a long run, but now he gets ready for perhaps one of the most difficult braking zones on the circuit. You've got to brake for a kink into a hairpin you can't see, and as he comes in towards the braking zone in excess of 190 miles an hour, braking nice and early here, all the way down the gearbox, prevents the lockup down to first gear, goes a little bit wide of apex, that's going to cost him a 10th on corner exit, but now he powers his way back up the gearbox in towards Indianapolis corner, full throttle once again, all that battery being depleted aggressively, full attack mode in the car as Campbell heads all the way through the kinks of 16 and 17. And plenty of breathing room right now on this lap, but very shortly the lap is going to change in complexion. It's going to become a much more technical lap as he heads in towards Indianapolis. Keep the car to the left hand side. Now let's listen in. Completely flat out there as he made his way into the first part of Indianapolis and then down to first gear. Car off on the side of the road, that's Cy Anthony, and as Campbell now makes his way on past the stricken car, going onto the brakes there, coming on through on arch corner, first gear, runs a little bit deep there, close to the walls, close he dares to dream to do so, and as he comes on through now onto the back straight, heading up towards the Porsche curves, full throttle once again, the last full throttle run in terms of straights here on the lap, as he heads up towards the Porsche curves here and getting ready to chuck the car in, and well now this is going to be a roller coaster ride as he turns in about 75 metres of corner apex, drops the gear to 5th, and as he comes on through now, bring the car to the right and double left apex here, flat out, you've got to commit as he holds 5th gear all the way through up to 6th, and now running through the right hand to complete the Porsche curves, 4th gear goes a bit wide the apex but brings it back over nicely for the start of the Corvette curves, keeps it in track limits there, and Austin William Campbell now flat out all the way through the curves and up towards the Ford chicanes and getting ready for the braking zone, looking for his brake mark on the right side with the pit lane entry curve, and as he comes on down to 3rd gear, 17 down to 2nd, and now onto the brakes down to 1st to complete the lap. It's been a lovely lap from Austin William Campbell. What's it going to be worth in terms of times? He crosses the line. He's currently not listed, and it will be a P5 there, 3:25.031. Well, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it was an absolutely astonishing fast opening half lap with that toe, but he's lost a bit of time at later on lap, and it's currently Dawson who sets the fastest time in this GTP Pro session with 3 minutes still left on the clock. Meanwhile, in the GTP Am session, it is Salvatore Guariento who currently is the fastest for Muriel.io. He's on a 3:24.220, only 2.5 tenths faster than Billy Bob Ray, who's currently leaving the pit lane, and he's going to try and get one more lap in before all is said and done, but I think Ray might be out of time given the time remaining. Dawson meanwhile goes even faster at 3:20.635, and here is the man who parks up. He says he's done his mission today, and well, can Effect Simulations make it a 1-2 on the grid? Well, Joshua Wilson right now think he can do. He's almost a whole second off of Dawson's pole time, but to be fair, Wilson right now still pushing on and on an even faster lap, or is he? No, he's not. In fact, he's down his previous best on the opening half a lap. Now he's got the toe of Alex Hill in front of him, and he'll be hoping that toe pulls him forward to success. But as he powers his way up towards what will be the Indianapolis corner, deciding to weave from side to side here, has he got enough time for this? He may just be able to squeeze in another lap. It's going to be tenuous, given the fact he's only half a lap round, but 2 minutes left on the clock. He should be able to make it here. So Wilson trying to be the last driver to get a lap in this session, and he will literally cross that start-finish line if he gets it right at the close of the 15 minutes. But meanwhile, one man who's currently going purple everywhere around the lab, minus subsector Sector 2 in the GTP AM class. His current pulse is Guariento on a 24.2 so far. How high can he go in terms of that time? And can he put the rest of the field off to the distance? Meanwhile, Ollie Pimley on his debut, currently P4. He's out there on his final lap, winding his way off of the second moles and chicane. As we say hello there to Tim Fox Media, who says there that Paul Busby demolished the field in the ARL prototypes on Friday night. Got to be one of the favourites for here tonight in reference to the Apex Racing League. And then we say hello there to Buzz Races, who are talking there. That's Paul Busby himself, talking about the fact he got it a bit wrong. Well, that's why I can tell you one thing, with regards to that P3, well, it's not going to be the best starting position compared to what he could have perhaps done, but right now we are looking at Effect Simulation's lockout for the first 3 positions on the overall grid, and well, you can see that here, ladies and gents. We look at the overall stands, that's just the GTPs accounted for there. Organ Hager said has yet to put a lap in, a valid lap that is, but right now Effect Simulations are absolutely dominating at the front of the field. But as our drivers come towards the close of the session now, we do look here to Austin William Campbell making his way through Arnage and coming off of the right hander there. A little bit of wobble on corner exit, but meanwhile Alexander Trimino McAlston making his way on through the final couple of corners. He's currently P6 in the GTP Pro class. What can he do as he crosses the line? With 30 seconds left, can he improve even further? He does. He goes P5 then on a 23.972 for the GTP Pros. And it's a good lap, but it's not quite enough to take on Sam Sherwood for that second row of the grid. But I think he'll be happy he's been able to out-edge the Symphony Esports driver of William Campbell. We'll have to wait and see if there is a response from William Campbell. Meanwhile, Salvatore Guariento goes even faster at 23.330, and that is good enough for what will be P5 on the overall grid, ahead of Trimino McAlston now. Still some drivers out, including Rudy Witzland, who's coming across the lines. Look at my quantity booth window, albeit we can't see him on camera at the moment. We're looking at Billy Bob Ray instead, but Rudy Witzland goes P4 on a free at 25.094. We've also got Himley and what is David Larson coming to the end of the session with the clock going over 15 minutes. And, well, I can tell you that Wilson did manage to get on another lap. He has plenty of time to get onto a lap, so Wilson making it easily said than done in terms of getting on through. But meanwhile, the GT3s are now starting to leave the pit lane, so this session will transition soon. Pimley goes P3 in the GTP AMs on the 24.848. Meanwhile, David Larson behind. Does he improve? No, it looks like he stays P6, then GTP AM, so it will mean in the AM category, apart from our last lap coming up from Billy Bob Ray, who's in fact made his way into the pit lane, where it will be at Salvatore Guariento, who starts on pole in the GTP AMs. We still do have some of our GTP Pro drivers out there, including, I do believe, Darryl Norquette, who's joined the lobby quite late in the day. But here comes the Racing Forces driver, winner last time out in the GTP AM class, but he has been promoted for this round. Neville, the Racing Forces driver, going to be giving it everything here in order to try and make a great impression in the more senior of the categories. And as he comes on through the Porsche curves into the Corvette curves, look how hard he's pushing there. Those third-person cameras really give you a sense of perspective on how hard our drivers have to push the track limits there, and only 2 wheels just about in the white lines. Any further than that, and it's an invalidated lap. And as he comes on through there, battling with direction change, battling with the weight of the car. These prototypes are light, but they're not as light as a feather. And as he comes to the line here, Norquette not getting a lap on the board initially, but what's this going to be? It's P5 for Darryl Norquette on a free 23.805, just out-edging what is there Alexander Trimino McAlston for that P5 position. But it'll be Salvatore Guariento starts ahead of the pair of them on the overall grid, and we still do have what is the lap being delivered by what is Trimino McAlston, albeit I believe he's on a bit more of a cool-down lap rather than an actual lap, and the same for Alex Hill unless I'm mistaken. So this GTP qualifying session now really coming to a close, and we're into a GT3 qualifying very shortly. We are looking at Hill at the moment as he makes his way for, I believe he is on a valid lap. We will get confirmation of that very shortly. But he comes in towards the Porsche curves here, dealing with the direction change in the Acura, and just winding and weaving his way through here, and again having to manage this car. And that's the thing in the races, it's easy to do over a single lap, but doing this time and time again for the best part of 60 minutes is an absolute stamina drain, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, as they make their way on the ground here. But meanwhile, Hill heading towards the next braking zone and not having too much time to practice, from what I gather from the Tiki Sim Sport Garage when I had the chance to catch up with him in the build-up tonight. Hill really going in for the approach today of just seeing where he fits into proceedings and gaining pace as the day goes on. And sometimes that's what you've got to do when you haven't had too much time to practice. Really, qualifying does become your practice. But Hill does get a time on the board and in a 3:24.767. Cy Anthony, meanwhile, not getting the time on the board, and Alexander Trimino McAlston into the pit lane. So that does mean we are now into GT3 qualifying territory. And, well, speaking of those GT3 drivers, they make the way around here, everybody in a hurry. It is going to be a rush. And, well, as we see them making the way on through that confirmation, and in the GTP category, it will be a top 3 lockout for Effect Simulations. Dawson ahead of Wilson and Busby, and Andrew Dawson on his debut. An absolutely phenomenal pole lap, 9/10 faster than what anybody else was able to achieve, and then ahead of his teammates as well. So could we see a 1-2-3 from the simulations at the front of the field today? We'll have to wait and see. And the GTP AM class starting P5 in the overall grid. It'll be Salvatore Guariento in the Porsche 963, making that Porsche sing to the tune, and it could be retribution day today for Guariento and Porsche here at Le Mans, as meanwhile our GT3 is now well and truly underway. We do have some new debutants in the class today, and we start off with this man, Christopher Bates, as he heads on through in the very colourful Porsche 992 there. I'm not quite sure whether they could sell on a colour of the car, and instead decide to go for a multicolour palette. And I can tell you one thing, it works, really breaking the car's profile up there, and he makes his way up towards what is Indianapolis corner right now. Definitely rivaling Tiki Simsport for one of the most colourful liveries on the grid, but we'll see Christopher or Chris Bates racing for RGV Racing, and we wish him the best luck there in the number 27. And then we also have bringing on to the circuit here today at a distant camera shot, the privateer of what is there, Jack Barker, and he's running in the Audi R8 LMS GT3 and deciding to give it his all as he makes his way up towards what will be Indianapolis corner shortly. And when I had the chance to catch up with Jack in the build-up tonight, he was telling me the fact that he set up this Audi to look for straight line speed, feeling confident that V10 engine is going to deliver on the straights, but he's not set himself any expectations. He's going in with an aim just to finish the race and see where he finishes. But both drivers will be in the GT3 AM class, and we wish them all the best luck on their debuts here today. Now, coming on to our point that we mentioned a little bit earlier on about Tiki Simsport. Now, you will notice today that the Ferrari 296s from Tiki Simsport in the GT3 category, they're all going to be running a modified version of their standard liveries, and this is in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month as of October 2023, with October each year being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it's quite an important cause for Tiki Simsport, and particularly to this man, Andrew Skinner, in the fact that a good close friend of his currently affected by breast cancer. However, in the fight against breast cancer, gradually winning that battle, which we're very pleased to hear here. And Lisa, if you are tuning in tonight, well, we wish you all the best in your continued fight against breast cancer. Indeed, the guys at Tiki Simsport really wanting to make sure that message comes on through. And I can tell you here at UK Sim Race, I think we'll all agree, ladies and gentlemen, in the Twitch chat. And indeed, if you tuned in whether live today or on the YouTube channel a couple of days later, we want to support everybody in their battle against breast cancer. And Lisa, you can do it. You can be in pole position to beat it. Keep up the great work there, and that's why you're going to be seeing these special liveries on the Tiki Simsport Ferrari 296s. So you'll see them on Andrew Skinner's car, which you're seeing on screen. Also the car of Simon Hartley, or Cy Hartley as he's known to the team, as you see him make his way on through there with what is the pink flywheel, the wheel spin disc, I should say. And then we also do have Shaminder Dean's car running livery, albeit Shaminder Dean's not on the grid today. We'll see him later on in the season, and therefore we can see the Tiki Simsport cars here decorated out in the breast cancer awareness liveries as he makes his way on down here. And I can tell you, Lisa, a big fan of these liveries as well. Well, they'll be hoping to try and make it a win here today in honour of the special cause. But as they roll on around right now, getting themselves all ready and set to go, well, we do have our GT3 drivers on their first flying laps, and the difference in terms of the GTP to the GT3 lap around here is staggering. It is the best part of 20 to 30 seconds on average in terms of lap time, and the reason for that is firstly because of the extended straights. This circuit, the GT3 has been able to hit in excess of 170 miles an hour by the time they get to the next braking zone, versus the GTP is hitting approximately 195 to 200 depending on the toe, as we saw with the onboard lap of Austin William Campbell. That sensational lap. To put you in the frame of perspective, if you do your measurements in kilometers per hour rather than miles per hour, 200 miles an hour is approximately, unless my mathematics is wrong, is approximately 280 kilometers an hour. The last time I checked, I could be wrong on that, however. In fact, I think it's more than that. It's actually in the region of 330 kilometers an hour, I want to say, getting the numbers correct. But if somebody can confirm that in the Twitch chat, we would be grateful. But as he winds his way on through the right hander there right now, Simon Hartley in himself all comfortably said. And well, speaking about the GT3 machines, we have been hearing the Porsche 992 really has been the car that nobody wants to run here today. And the reason for that is this is the car that's seen as the handling master in terms of going through corners such as the Porsche curves and also the Corvette curves. This will be the car that's the hardest to beat. However, there's just one problem with the Porsche, and it's flat six. It doesn't have the pace on the straights, and expect our Porsche drivers to be running a lot less downforce compared to their rivals, albeit this is a low downforce circuit by degree in the fact that it has such long straights. But these guys will be running as little rear wing as possible because they'll want every mile an hour they can on the straights, and expect the Porsche drivers to be siphoning the slipstream off of every driver they can when they go into the race, because they will need that lap time. There's no doubt about it. But as we see Lawrence Marsh making his way on through turn number 27 into 28 and 9 right now, we're going to be seeing very shortly. Our first lap times come onto the board as we say hello to Ryan Moles there in the switch shed. And then he heads in towards the braking zone here, coming into left, into right. Well, it'll be the first lap on the board for Satinder Deensa, a 3:59.070, and this BMW M4 in the very capable hands of Deensa is being tipped to be perhaps the favourite to win here today in the GT3 AM class. The Tiki Sim Sport driver brimming with confidence, did have his confidence knocked a little bit after the instance of Watkins Glen last time out, albeit really shaken by the fact things went very wrong in the state of New York. But I can tell you one thing, he's been able to recover since all of that, and he's all fired up once again and ready to go. And well, the mood in the Tiki Sim Sport camp, particularly in his garage, could not be higher, and that's always great to hear. As meanwhile, Hekun Gestad goes faster in the GT3 Pro class on a 55.791 as he makes his way up the hill through turns 1 into 2. Onto the brakes he goes here, and this Ferrari may not be as fast on the straights compared to, say, the BMW M4, but let's not count out the 6-cylinder Ferrari with its turbo as well. This car will be quick on the straights, particularly when it does get into the toe, in an echo to the previous Ferrari 488 Evo GT3, which had a very long sit gear compared to its rivals, and normally was in the slipstream it became unstoppable. It just needed the toe. But right now Gustave making his way on through Tetra Rouge and keeping it nice there on the corner entry as he makes his way on around. And well, in this GT3 qualifying session as well, I think the majority of our drivers opting to go for full fuel tanks for this qualifying session in terms of maximising the fuel to be able to do the outlap plus the free flying laps they'll have available, and knowing that the lap time will improve gradually. But nobody, as far as we can see currently, opting to take the approach of just do one lap and then come into the pits. And as soon as I say that, in fact, I look out my content booth window, and well, this man's leaving the pit lane. Mark Johnson has decided to go with the ultimate strategy. This is the big gamble strategy, which is one flying lap, then come into the pits, do an outlap and go again. He's going to have a very light car come the end of this qualifying session, and could that be the chance for Johnson to decisively make his way onto pole in the GT3 AM class, or at least leapfrog his way up the order? Keep in mind that Johnson continues to come to terms with this Porsche 992, but I think right now opted to go for the gamble, given the fear that the Porsche 992 is going to be significantly slower on the straights, and therefore wanting to try and get himself at the head of the pack of Porsches in order to go hunting after the Ferraris and the BMWs. But we'll have to wait and see if that's what plays out in practice, or whether this comes back to haunt him to a degree as he makes his way on through. But now all that GT3 drives onto their second qualifying laps, and as he makes his way down this first part of the Mulsanne straight, a little bit of trivia for you, ladies and gentlemen. On the right hand side, from Mark Johnson's perspective, left hand side from our cameraman's perspective briefly, there's a number of cafes and restaurant space on there, plus also some shops, and those shops only open when the 24 Hour of Le Mans is on each year. They're rented out specifically by businesses who want to cash in on the race, and therefore have people come along, and they only become open when the track is open as well. So if you go for a track walk around here, you walk around the circuit, you get up to the first part of the Mulsanne straight, and it's a natural pit stop for you as a walker or a cyclist going on around. And well, if you're up for it and doing the full 8.46 miles, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it is a dream to walk on the tarmac, and it's all the little things around here which perhaps the cameras don't show you, such as the little changes in gradient as you make your way down each part of the Mulsanne straight. The fact that coming out of this second chicane, our drivers are actually driving uphill all the way to what will be the final 500 metres before going into Mulsanne corner, and then it's slightly downhill. It's little things, or running off towards the edge of the road where naturally the road has been worn down over time by commuters driving on their lanes on the road. But meanwhile, if you bring the car into the right of the left hand side and put it to the edge of the road, it actually becomes bumpier, and therefore you lose time. It's those little things around this circuit which our drivers will find are modelled in iRacing, and that's what they'll be looking to try and use that knowledge in order to gain an edge. But as we do see Johnson making his way out there, meanwhile we do to Daniel Pace, the leading car in this qualifying session in terms of the head of the GT3 pack, as he makes his way up towards the forward chicanes, coming to the final four corners. And well, this lap has not been an improving lap from Pace. In fact, it has seemed to have been a little bit of a slow lap for the old Duty Cars driver, and we're currently 3 seconds off the pole time set in the GT3 Pro class by Hekon Gestad. I think Finn has a bit more time out there, as meanwhile Lawrence Marsh into the pit lane, and that will be Lawrence Marsh's qualifying session over with. He won't have any more time. Meanwhile, Peter Cox coming on through in the rear of the picture there, and what can he do? He's currently unclassified, and as he crosses line, it's P4. What is a 3:57.521 as he comes on through, and well, a nice lap there from Peter Cox. Meanwhile, Hekon Gestad making his way on through, and we're trying to raise that bar with the pole time. He did improve in the first third lap, but I don't think he found the time on the rest of the lap. Indeed, Gestad did not, as he heads across the line. And then we do have a couple more drivers making their way on around. Peter Cox sweeping through down the hills here, but meanwhile, who else we got out there? We've got Agent Kukulas currently coming up with the Dunlop curve. He goes P8 on what is a 4 minute and 55 in terms Well, the attempt on the 100th there, 4 minute flat and 55, but as he makes his way over the Dunlop rise and down he goes, we've then got the majority of the GT3 AM class following suit as he heads on towards what will be here at the forward chicanes and coming through left, right. What can Edmondson do, having lost the championship lead for the first time this season as of going into this round after Watkins Glen, when the championship is built on the whole series and not just 1 or 2 rounds. As Edmond crosses in the line, what's it going to be this time? For the number 176 driver, it's not a bad lap. He's going to have to go again. Meanwhile, Crystal Bates crossed the line here, brings the car into the middle of the road. I think that might be a session over with. Bates is a 402.332, puts in P8, but might now be on a cool-down lap as he makes his way on through. And meanwhile, our last driver to come on around will be James Connolly, who we're going to jump on board with for a flying lap here, or are we? No, in fact, he's going to pull off race 9. Instead, we will get the on-board lap with Jack Barker as he makes his way up the hill and in towards turns 1 and 2. The Audi driver comes on through, braking about 150 metres, corner apex down to second gear as he rolls his way from left into right and coming on through there, massaging the car through the chicane and now over the rise and down into the S's here, building up the speed and coming in towards the next braking zone as he goes onto the anchors all the way down to third gear, keeping the car nice and tight and now firing the car out through turn number 7. The speed as he makes his way in towards Tetra Rouge, dab of the brakes as he goes from 5th down to 4th gear, a snap down shift as well. Car responds nice as he now makes his way onto the Mulsanne straight, and it's a long run here and you get to hear that V10 engine. As that V10 reaches a cacophony in excess of 173 miles an hour, he now gets ready to go onto the brakes as Barker as he looks at his brake marker, the 100 ball for the turning point, down to third gear, then dropping to second as he hits the second part of the chicane, and now making his way on through and onto the second part of the straight. Lets the car roll out to the left, gradually now nurses it over to the right as the checker flag comes out on this GT3 qualifying session. So as all the drivers make their way across line, we see those final lap times coming in, but the Barker right now, he'll be the last driver who comes across that line. Connie behind him, and in fact Connie did decide to stay on a lap there, but I think he cooled off to a degree. But as we see Barker heading on down, looking over to his right hand side, looking at his brake market with that 100 board just after it, braking about 90 metres to the corner entry down to third gear, riding the apex curves incredibly high, and one settled the car, but he managed to keep it pointing in a straight line, now making his way on out and up towards the Mulsanne corner. And going through the kink of 13, flat out here, and in fact backing off, I think a track limit invalidation brings Barker's lap to an end, and Barker in the end not too pleased with that. I think he'll be kicking himself for a mistake, very easy to make, however, that will be his qualifying session done and dusted. But meanwhile, as we look from his onboard lap to the leader of the field right now, making the way around, Cox goes very wide there through the last part of the Porsche curves at 26, and as he comes through 27, I think Cox's lap will not be an improvement, and behind him is Noel Killing, who right now, the Mule.io driver, looking to try and snatch pole in the GT3M class, albeit currently what is 3.5 tenths off of Dean's time, and as he makes his way on through the forward chicanes here, well, the first half of lap has been a sizable improvement, but the second half of lap may not be. The 193 driver comes to the line. What's it going to be for Killing here as he crosses that timeline? Is it going to be enough for pole position? It is indeed. It's a 358.563, but who can react now? Who's going to be able to find a way to leapfrog their way back ahead of Killing if they can? As meanwhile, Hekon Gustad does not improve in his current pole lap in the GT3 Pro class. Marvin Cruz goes P6 in said class, meanwhile, getting ahead of Daniel Page. We've still got more drivers coming on through, including what is, I believe, very shortly Simon Hartley, as he heads his way into the forward chicanes here in the special Tiki Simsport livery machine. As he comes on through the left into right, we hear that Casper Brotner's moved up to P2 in the GT3 Pro class. What's it going to be for Hartley across the line? Car going quite slowly there, coming out the corner, but still does improve. It's a 401.287. It's P6 now for Simon Hartley. We've still got more to come. Andy Skinner next up here, as the TE Simsport crew have managed quite nicely in terms of giving space to one another and also hand the chance to improve. And Skinner improving in the final 2/3 of his lap, goes a bit wide out the final corner, and Sharples meanwhile improves into P8 in the GT3 Pro class. Skinner gets ahead of Hartley in the GT3 AM class, and behind that was Matt Edmondson, who goes P6 now, so it will be Edmondson who dethrones Skinner and Hartley off of that third row of their class. And meanwhile, Barker going slightly here, coming on through the Corvette curves. So the only other driver out there right now on a lap where he can improve, and we believe it's a VAD lap, is Mark Johnson as he heads across line. And what's it going to be here for Johnson? He's currently unclassified. He goes P9 or 401.696, so a difficult qualifying session there for Johnson. And Barker makes his way in to the pit lane. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And well, in the end of the GT3 class, it's overall pole for Hekon Gristad and also GT3 Pro pole with it. Casper Brotner a second behind the next closest driver. And meanwhile, Niall Killen will be your GT3 and pole sitter, managing to scramble ahead of Satinder Diensa, and it will be a Porsche and a BMW on the front row of that class, albeit separated by Daniel Pays in the GT3 Pro class. And well, what a race we've got ahead of us right now, ladies and gentlemen, in the fact we've seen some favourites definitely subverted, and we'll with it all in the front of the field. And Effect Simulations 1, 2, 3, you can imagine here it could be an Effect Simulations day of dominance unless anybody can try and intercede them and make their way in to the lead. But then again, we have seen qualifying go one way in the past for previous rounds, and it only to unfold completely differently in the race. Will it be like that today here at Le Mans, or will we see qualifying really shape this field when we go green flag racing? Well, we're only moments away from finding out. But as our drivers get set, I am hearing that for Satinder Diensa, some technical issues midway through qualifying did seem not able to set a further lap and improve. So therefore that P2 coming involuntarily from Diensa and Killing really making the most of the opportunity there. So I think Tiki Sims won't be too pleased with the way things have played out in the GT3 AM class. Otherwise, other information to be gleaned from down the pit lane, not too much at the moment. But all of our drivers in the pit lane right now and awaiting that transition to go green flag racing. But these conditions continue to stay absolutely pleasant. And well, if you do need to quickly run away to go to the bathroom or grab yourself some popcorn or a drink, ladies and gentlemen, you've got approximately 1.5 minutes before we do see the green flag for the GTPs. So you best hurry, because once we go racing, the action is not going to stop. And here comes the transition to the grid. So as our drivers make their way onto the grid for today, this is how they'll line up. For round number 5 of the UK Sim Racing GT3-GTP Multiclass League at Season 1, as brought to you on iRacing here today at Le Mans, it is Andrew Dawson who takes his maiden pole position and overall pole position for Effect Simulations, and also in the GTP Pro category. He'll be joined on the front row by teammate for Effect Simulations, Joshua G. Wilson, and on row number 2, it's Paul Busby, the third member of the team, who is joined on that row by ProTech Motorsports' Sam Sherwood. Salvatore Guariento starts in P5, down on the third row, GTP AM pole sitter for Mural.io, joined by Racing Forces, Darren Orkett starts P6, and on row number 4 it's Alexander Truna McCallson from Racing Lab Esports Moser, joined by Empire Motorsports Billy Bob Ray. To complete the top 10, it'll be the pair of Austin William Campbell for Symphony Esports and Alex Hill for Tiki Simsport Copa, and then on row number 6, starting P11 Best Race, it's Ollie Pimley for DY13 Racing on his debut, joined by David Rolliston for Tiger Racing Team. On row number 7, we have Rudy Witzland for Race Lab Esports KTM, joined by Symphony Esports David Larson, and then we'll have Aaron Beaver starting P15 for UK Sim Racing Bell, joined by Auden Hegerstedt of Race Lab Esports Moser. Our last GTP driver will be starting P17, it's Cy Anthony, not able to get a lap time on the board there, the privateer, and then we come on to the GT3 grid, and starting P18 overall pole sitter for the GT3s overall, and in the pro class, it's Hekon Gristad for Ignium Motorsport, and it's good to see him up the top there once again, and taking his first pole position of the season. Casper Brotner starts P19 for Old Dudes in Cars, joined on the 10th row to complete the top 20 by UK Sim Racing Mansell's Chris Constable. We then have Peter Cox and Chris Kirtland starting P21, P22 for UK Sim Racing Hill and Downforce Racing respectively, and they are followed up by Marvin Cruz, who starts P23 for Old Dudes in Cars, and then followed up by the pole sitter for the GT3 AM class on Mural.io's Niall Killen with his maiden pole position. Congratulations, Niall. We then have on row number 13, none other than Daniel Pace for Old Dudes in Cars, joined by Satinder Diensa for Tiki Simsport Tour, who we hope's been able to get onto the grid in time, and we can confirm he has been able to do so. And then we have on row number 14, the GT3 Ampere of James Conley and what is Lawrence Marsh for UK Sim Racing Hill and Downforce Racing. To complete your top 30, it's Darren Sharples for UK Sim Racing Mansell, and Shore Competition Esports is Adrian Kukulas. And then on what is row number 16, Jack Barker on his debut, the privateer, joined on that row by Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill, and then behind him it will be Andy Skinner for Tiki Simsport and Simon Hartley for Tiki Simsport Tour. And then on row number 18, it's Mark Johnson for UK Sim Racing Mansell and RGV Racing's Christopher Bates on his debut. Plenty to do from that position on the grid. And then on the final full row of the grid, row number 19, it's Thomas Barger, the privateer, joined by Ryan Moles for ProTech Motorsport Motorsport not able to get a qualifying time in, and then John Davis will be starting. Last but not least, P39 on the grid on row number 20 for the wrong stuff there. But as they all get set now, ladies and gentlemen, the field already underway with regards to the formation lab, and we are not too far away from going green flag racing. But do keep in mind, of course, as we said earlier, it will be a single file rolling start unless the pack leader, and in the case of the GTPs, the GT Pro leader of Andrew Dawson, opts to let the field go into double file formation when they make the way out of the final corner, i.e. the final part of the forward chicanes. But otherwise, Dawson can dictate the run of the race, going out that corner all that towards the start-finish line. We suspect our drivers will be going for the single file start, but that could also throw a spanner in the works depending on what the leader decides to do. But as they all make the way on through here, we're behind the safety car, the automated iRacing safety car there, the Ford Mustang, one of the older generation Mustangs, making its way on around. The GTPs are almost to the start line. Here is your pole sitter in the GT3 category of Heckel Gestad. He'll be looking to take his first win of the season, with the absence of a number of his rivals, such as Eric Rosev today. But absent or not, he's still got a very capable field behind him, and he knows that 60 minutes will be a long time in racing motorsport in order to bring it on home. But as the field now makes its way into the last couple of corners, it's Dawson who gets ready to go green flag racing, and well, holding his speed as best as possible. The safety car will peel off to the right, and it's Dawson to take us to the green flag. And it's lights out, and away we go for the GTPs as Dawson gets the run immediately. A bit of a scramble there further back. I think a couple of drivers getting caught out by the run all the way out to the line, but they've all survived it just about as they make the way up the hill towards the Dunlop curve. But as they head into the braking zone, 3 wide here between a multitude of drivers. That's Aaron Beaver battling with Larson, Hegeseta and Rolliston as they come on through into the braking zone. But meanwhile, we look back to the GT3s as they make the way to their race start now, and Heckel Gestad gets ready to go and goes immediately out the final corner. And no shenanigans here as he makes his way across the line and up towards turn number 1. He goes immediately knowing he'll have the best possible advantage and charges away as all the field head up towards the opening braking zone. But as they do, meanwhile, looking back down the order, we look to Noel Killing has had a good start as well in the GT3 AM category, with Deanster still 9/10 behind. But from them, we look back up to your GTPs as at the back of the field already Sight Anthony trying to make some early progress versus Auden Hegeseta, the Racing Lab Esports Moza driver there, just letting Sight Anthony looks the inside, but just in front of them, Alex Hill under a bit of pressure from Ollie Pimney as they come on down, and these guys are all getting caught out on the race start as they make their way down into the braking zone here. As they come in to the chicane, well, Hill is going to let Pimney go, respecting the fact there's still multiple runs of the straights going and plenty of opportunity to be in the tow, and that's where the fuel saving comes in nice and early doors. But as they power their way up through the gearboxes once again. Meanwhile, in the GT3 category, in terms of moves that have been potentially made, we have got Chris Kirkland looking for a move on Peter Cox here in the battle for his P4 in the GT3 Pro category as they come on down, as they roar their way. The 2 Porsches battling. You could already see those Ferraris starting to pull away, but the leading Porsche drivers here exchanging the real estate. Kirkland on the left of your picture jumps ahead. Meanwhile, Satinder Deanster wasting no time with that BMW looking for the move. He can't quite find it. Meanwhile, Sharples versus Kukulas. Kukulas up the inside of Sharples, and the UK Sim Racing Mansell driver lets it go with Jack Barker and Matt Edmondson looking to battle as well as they make the way onto the second part of Mulzan. But charging away and down here, Edmondson I think tucking into the toe here and deciding to play the safe bet, which is just siphon the fuel, siphon the slipstream and make it work to the long term. This is a very long race, and as they make the way down, well, Edmondson is going to build to the inside here. Barker right now just holds his line on the outside, so Edmondson deciding to go a little bit early, perhaps feeling as though the Ferrari's got a bit more speed and he wants to capitalise on that. Well, side by side they're going to the braking zone. Who's going to give way? Edmondson it does get to the apex just in time. A little bit of wobble there as he hit the curb, but manages to keep it together just about rear of the car. Let's go! Edmondson on cold tyres, catches it just in time. Good moves there from the 126 driver to make sure it didn't go to the barrier, but being caught out there and Barker just steering clear and out of trouble. But meanwhile, looking to your GT3 leaders of Heckel Gestad versus Casper Brotner as they come down to the brakes here for Mulzan corner. Right now, these two are breaking away. Constable is a whole second behind, and you can see that the UK Sim Racing machine in P3 started to fall away from this top 2. But meanwhile, looking back up to our GTPs, here's your top 3 of Dawson at Busby and then Wilson, and right now they are just gradually breaking away for effect simulations. They make their way into the Porsche curves. Wilson falling a bit further back, 2 seconds off the top 2 right now, with Sherwood keeping him on honest pursuit as they make the way on through, and Darren Orquette as well, the Racing Forces driver, looking to try and take on Salvatore Guariento as they come on towards the Corvette curves here, and the number 86 driver in the Cadillac trying to bear down the Porsche that right now really is absolutely flying the ointment of all these cars, because otherwise right now it is a top 8 of Cadillacs minus 1 Porsche in the GTP category, as behind Iridia Witzland here, the BMW M4 driver, looking for an opportunity to try and make some moves versus Austin William Campbell as they go on to lap number 2. As they charge away across the line right now. Plenty of time to go in this race, and the Racing Lab Esports KTM driver will know that much, as many will do so as they head up towards the Dunlop curve. And as they do from them, we look a bit further back to the GT3s here. They're still making their way towards the Porsche curves, and you can already see that delta of 30 seconds in terms of single lap pace between the classes making itself known, and we expect the fields will intersect around the region of lap number 8, and that's where we'll see the multi-class racing element really start to come alive. And as he heads in towards the right hander here of what is turn number 26 in fact, and onwards, roaring his way on through. Peter Cox right now not really able to gain too much time versus Chris Kirtland. I think the dirty air off the back of his rival starting to upset the aero balance of this Porsche and just cost him the speed as they make the way in towards the Ford chicanes. And then we look to Iridia Witzland here, who's battling side by side with Ollie Pimley. Pimley on the right of your picture, and Witzland on the left of your picture as we look at them head on. And right now it's the drag race of the two. The BMW M Hybrid not too far off the pace compared to the Cadillac, but the Cadillac does have the speed advantage on the straights from what we've seen. But meanwhile, the BMW a little bit stronger overall by comparison when it comes to the mixture of cornering and straight line speed capabilities. And that will do Witzland very nicely in the second half of the lap when it becomes less and less about straight line running. But as they power their way into the second part of Mulsanne, Witzland right now just tucked into the toe here and thinking about what he can do in that toe to gain a little bit of fuel, but also on top of that thinking about where he positions himself for looking for a return move. And I think really he's got to be thinking more about the exit out of Mulsanne if he's going to go for it, rather than around here for the simple reason they've still got 2 long runs before Indianapolis, and therefore it does become this game of proverbial high-speed chess as they make the way through each of these corners and recognise, okay, when's the right time to attack, albeit Witzland there losing 2 attempts on the exit of Mulsanne chicane number 2, and therefore I think now Pimley's starting to make a breakaway. But meanwhile, we've got a bit of a change here. We've got a car going slowly. No, oh goodness me, and that's gone very wrong. So Zinda Dinsa into the wall there and be turned around. Oh my good lord, and the car comes spinning back onto the circuit, and that is going to be race over, I believe, for Darren Sharp, who's had nowhere to go. And what dramatic lap number 2 already. Simon Hartley getting caught up on that. Dinsa right now just trying to get the car to stop, and does so in the end. But my goodness, we're going to need a replay of that because there's a lot to dissect in terms of that instance. We see Edmondson making his way past Mark Johnson here, when you could not have expected that on lap number 2. And I think there might have been a bit of proceeding slowdown that caused the field there to group together, and as they all tried to negotiate around one another, that's what led to Dinsa being fired off into the wall, and the car at that point really making him a passenger. But as they make the way on down the second part of Mulsanne, we will get that replay very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, and all the drivers are into the pits at the moment. It does seem as though they're okay, being able to tow away, but a nasty instant for many. And Dinsa's day not going any better after the difficulties of qualifying. But meanwhile, as we look to the field making the way on down, that's Brian Moles in the Porsche. You can see Protect Motorsport chasing after what is Andy Skinner. And well, we can see that Moles loses his front bumper for a brief moment. They has rejoined. I think there a little bit of a netco contact between Skinner and Moles. Not quite sure what's happened between them, but both of them going slowly there. It's going to be free wide almost as Edmondson thinks about going between them, but then decides perhaps it's better not to, and then switches to the inside. Well, Edmondson here being very brave to do this. They make the way down. He's got the drag race with Moles as they head towards the braking zone. Moles definitely in a bit of a bump on the front of that Porsche 992, and as they come into the braking zone, it's 2 by 2. They go. Skinner's struggling with an issue on the car. Edmondson battling up the inside of Moles. Onto the brakes they go into Moles and corner, and as they exit here, it's going to be the drag race of the Porsche versus the Ferrari as they now make the way up towards Indianapolis corner. And Will Edmondson still there, but Moles I think now starting to get the edge as Edmondson tucks back in, and right now looking for a bit more tow before he can go for the move. And we ride aboard, look back to the rear of Moles' car. You see Edmondson now going around what is the outside here, heading up towards Indianapolis. Second king to come first at turn number 17, and well, the Porsche driver just needs to hold his line here and try and make Edmondson back out, but Edmondson's not going to do so. Surely as they come in, he turns in, and Moles in the end is made to back out, but Edmondson's into the wall, loses the rear of the car, and the car's off into the tyre barrier there in the rear of the picture, and Edmondson's race comes to an abrupt halt in a very short window of only 3 laps of racing. An unfortunate moment there, with the car carrying too much speed, and in the end the rear end just not keeping it planted down as he gets towed to the pits. Meanwhile, we look to David Larson here right now as Cy Anthony for company. The 7 Esports right in the 306 Acura being chased on down by Anthony the Privateer. Anthony looking to the inside here, and the Welshman versus the Brit. It'll be the Welshman who takes the place, and Larson 9, they're not in the same class and therefore not in the same effective race. But as they make the way on through, Anthony going a bit wide, they may have a slowdown for his troubles, but we take a look back at what exactly happened to Satinder Dinsa. So this was going on to lap number 3, and contact there immediately with the Porsche. I believe that was the number 22 car of Lawrence Marsh. Now, as more system meets the eye, as we then see the aftermath of Sharples coming on in. But let's try and get a bit of an earlier replay of what exactly happened there. So I think there was a slowdown which set off this whole chain reaction of what happened as we do try to get on board with one of our drivers here. And this was Lawrence Marsh. So this was the starter lap. So we come back a bit early in terms of this replay between the drivers. In fact, this would have been the start of the lap where it's all played out, so we will stay with this. So Marsh in chase here, as meanwhile we focus the camera more onto Tinder Deanster at this point. He's got Edmondson behind. In front, meanwhile, he does have what is there, the struggling Mural.io car, the 193 of what was Niall Killing. So Killing going slowly into Tetra they went. Now Deanster going a bit wide there, but that doesn't really tell the story. There was no slow. Oh, goodness me! And there, with Killing's car going a bit slowly, Deanster out of sorts, and then the contact with the number 22, and Deanster at this point, just a passenger in the car. Car comes off the wall there and into the barrier, and that's what leads to Sharples being caught up. And well, the aftermath of it all being that Deanster and Sharples both into the pits, and Simon Hartley, meanwhile, also being involved in a separate incident, it would seem. And this was coming down. Moles going slowly here. This was on the same lap, going into Tetra Rouge, comes through the right-hander and loses the rear of the car, and Hartley into the wall there. Catch the car in time, or does he? He does get it stopped, but that damage from that initial impact enough to cause him to need to go to the pits, and that'll be a long tow time. But a nasty moment there between our drivers, and with it, it does mean that we have had some of the biggest names in the GT3 AM class in particular. Deanster lose out considerably, and meanwhile Niall Killing, I'm not quite sure what led to him going quite slowly out of Tetra Rouge. Perhaps he had a slow down for track limits at the Dunlop chicane, but that's something which we can only guess as to what happened. But it went very, very wrong for our drivers there. But as we say hello to GZN High, and also what is there, Sam Congreve, and also Joe Newman. And GZN High clarifying there that there was a slowdown for Niall Killing in that instant. GZN High, of course, being the team principal of Tiki Studios, but feeding us some information there from the pit wall in terms of what's happening, what we can't see on our cameras. And we're very grateful to Greg as he comes to us on the pit wall. Albeit we're not going to be able to hear from him currently today, but still he'll be your messages in the Twitch chat to help feed it some information where we go. But as we look back to the live race now, ladies and gentlemen, our LMPs, or in fact I should say our GTPs, already onto lap number 4. Meanwhile the GT3s onto lap number 3 of their race. And as we look to Chris Kirkland here, the Downforce Racing driver in the 112, carrying on his merry way here with Chris Constable just behind. Heckenstad has broken away, should we point out, but Kirkland right now trying to subvert expectations here in the 992 and trying to make it so there is a Porsche on the podium come the end of it all as he makes his way down toward Indianapolis, rolling on through the right-hander and in towards the braking zone for the left-hander right now. It does look as though Kirkland doing everything he can in his power to be able to keep on to way. You can see that difference in handling potential between the two cars, but the Downforce Racing driver there just able to open up the gap by a couple of times off Indianapolis and Arnage, and now powering his way back up the gearbox here in towards the Porsche curves. That's where the gap will close. Meanwhile, at the front of the field here, we do have a change of potential lead coming in the GTP Pro class between the Effect Simulations driver of Busby and Dawson. Busby now takes the lead. Now, I wonder if there's a little bit of teamwork at play here between the two teammates in terms of the fact that Dawson's been run out front with no real tow, so therefore perhaps they're swapping place here to give both drivers the opportunity to extend their opening stint. We'll have to wait and see. And meanwhile, further back, this is the battle for P2 in the GTP AM class. Also a battle around what is the 7th place GTP Pro driver of Austin William Campbell. But the point being, Billy Bob Ray there flashes his lights, being passed by Ollie Pimney, who makes it a 2-for-1 special to the second Mulzone chicane. And as they head up towards what is the Molzak corner, well, right now you can see there, Austin William Campbell not happy with how this has played out. I think he's feeling as though that with regards to this, he should be at the front of this group. And will Billy Bob Ray taking a look up the inside here, but going to have to back off early as they enter the braking zone. And as they do, well, the Scotsman here being made to wait. He'll get a double draft, however, for being in this position. But look at this from William Campbell now going to a full attack. The Acura driver looking back up the inside on the left-hand side of your picture in the foreground. Meanwhile, that is Alexander Truna McAllister, who's just away from this battle for the time being. But side by side go Pimley and William Campbell as they make the way into the second kink on the run. And as they head in towards Indianapolis, it's going to William Campbell as the inside line, Pimley on the outside there. And I think Pimley's just not going to have enough legs in order to be able to get this done. Meanwhile, Ray very close for comfort as they make the way on around. We ride aboard here with the Empire Motorsport driver as he tried to look for the opportunistic move up on Pimley on the inside into Indianapolis corner, but couldn't quite find it as they make the way out of Arnage now. Behind, you can see in the rear view mirror at the top of your screen, that's really a Wittstone who's getting very close as well. And as they make the way up towards what is turn number 22 here towards the Porsche curves they go. Will Ray fall it back a little bit at this time as they go on through the long right-hander here, with Vincent having to hold position. I think Vincent might be thinking about how he can leapfrog these guys in the pits, albeit we've got a long time before we do get our potential pit stops for today. We're expecting at least one pit stop on the card. I mean, there was a rumour circulating we might even see the second pit stop, but I think it will be a one-stop race for majority of our drivers. We'll have to wait and see. But Ray right now getting the dirty air there, causes the car to go wide. Is it a slowdown, however, around a bit wide? I don't think so for Billy Bob Ray. I think just within limits there, but pushing the boundaries as he makes his way in towards the forward chicanes. And will right now really doing everything he can to stay close to Pimley, but you can see a Vincent close behind and closing quite rapidly as they make the way through. And Ray, in fact, does have a slowdown there. We did think he went a bit wide, and therefore he will have to yield the positions, and that is going to be very painful because the fact that it may be a second slowdown, but given the fact that's an acceleration zone coming out the forward chicanes, it means that in fact you do lose about 2 seconds of race time once you get yourself back up to speed for the Dunlop chicane. And the pain felt there by the Scotsman as he drops behind Alex Hill. He's now got Cy Anthony for company, and Anthony looking up the inside here in the run, down under the Dunlop Bridge and into the S's, and side by side they go. And Ray here defending, he doesn't want to give in to Sciency. I think feels as though he's the faster driver on merit, and as they cover through the S's up towards Tetrarud, will Ray yield or will he not? Well, Sciency's going to be made to work for this as they cover through the right-hander, and in the end it is going to be run from Sciency. He gets the better run off the corner, and side by side they power the way on through and charge the way onto Mulzan now. As they make the way on down here, will we see Ray come back? Well, we'll have to wait and see as Aaron Beaver also getting close here. Beaver is a GTP AM driver who wants position off of Ray, given that they'll be battling for P4 in the class as they make the way on down. So right now, Billy Bob Ray definitely being forced backwards and being forced back into further battles with his peers, just as much as he is drivers of the other GTP class as they head on through the first Mulzan chicane. But right now they stay as they are as they make the way to the second part of Mulzan. But meanwhile, as I say, that things aren't staying as they are. Viridian Vincent, as he goes to try and turn the car off the road, or get it off the road at least, and a Vincent here, I think, trying to drive the car off the circuit and trying to get it parked up there away from everybody, but the Race Lab Esports KTM driver will have to pick the right time to do so, so it's going very, very wrong for Viridian Vincent. But meanwhile, as he now makes his way back to the pit lane, we'll try and understand what happens to Vincent very shortly, and in fact we do have an immediate replay to show what happens to the Race Lab Esports driver. So going on through the first Mulzan chicane, gets hooked up initially, goes a bit deep out the main corner, and then look at that, the car getting hooked there on the apex curb to exit the chicane. He had no control of the car at that point, he just got grounded over it and pulled it around, and then goodness me, I think that was the car of, what was David Lawson there, having to take evasive action. Indeed it was, and Lawson, I think he might have just seen this whole race flash before his eyes, seeing that car, the Race Lab Esports car, going the wrong way on circuit, and will just managed to stay on his line there, and in doing so avoiding the incident. But definitely a close one between them as Cy Anthony becomes the focus of our cameraman's attention as we return to live pictures, but he makes his way on down in towards the braking zone for Indianapolis once again, still ahead of Billy Bob Ray, but right now these guys are battling for what is effectively P11 overall, albeit Alex Hill in front is P10 overall, so you could say it's more of a battle for the top 10 in the GTP class, and then Billy Bob Ray and Aaron Beaver now fighting for the third place spot in the GTP AM class with that unfortunate incident for Viridian Vincent that I believe has actually led to a Vincent's retirement from this race, although we're waiting confirmation of that. It's not been confirmed as yet, ladies and gentlemen. We know he's in the pit lane, we're waiting to know whether the car can be repaired, but meanwhile Hill here under pressure from Anthony, and these two battling for P8 in the GTP Pro class. Hill is going to be looked up the inside there by Anthony. Anthony goes all in, and Alex Hill just tucking in for TE Sport Corporate as they fly their way up through the double left-hander here. And right now I think Hill playing the game or just gradually building himself into this race. As we said earlier, not having the time to really practice for today, so therefore he's learning every lap he takes. As we have a GT3 going quite slow, that's Marvin Cruz, as now the GT3 field is being picked up by the GTPs a couple of laps earlier than we anticipated, but this will start towards the multi-class racing to really condense, and we'll start to see those battles ebb and flow between drivers with each of their classes. But speaking of battles here, we do look back to the GT3 class, and it is Casper Brotno is on the hunt versus James Connolly, and James Connolly, your leader of the GT3 AM class, with all the drama that's played out in the AM class, with killing slowdowns, hitting the Deansters at moment the wall and whatnot. It does mean that Connolly right now looking comfortably out there in the lead, with Adrian Kukulis the next car behind. Casper Brotno up the inside there, gets it a bit wide, coming out of the chicane, the first of the Mulzan chicanes, and now he's going to a bit of pressure, but I think Connolly will just tuck in and respect the fact that all he needs to do is run in the toe here and not do anything magical in order to be able to just gradually pull away, albeit he'll go to the racing line here, let Brotner take the middle of the road, and therefore I think the idea here is that Connolly is trying to say to Brotner, look, I don't want to battle, I'm trying to bleed the speed off the car rather than gain the toe off of you, as they make their way down towards the braking zone. We're hearing that Darren Sharples is leaving the pit lane meanwhile, so he'll be P10 GT3 Pro, and he'll be back out racing. He'll be, I think, a lap down practically after all the repair work that's had to be done to the car. And I think Satinder Dienza as well making his way out onto the circuit. So a multitude of drivers with the repair work done, they get themselves back into the race. But meanwhile, speaking of drivers who find themselves right head first in the battle here, this is the GTP Pro class of Alexander Mikkelsen, and behind him, obscured mostly by the Cadillac B-Series machine, is the Acura of what is there, Austin William Campbell, looking up the inside now into the braking zone for what is at the second bolt center chicane. In they go onto the anchors, and it will be Trino Mikkelsen who gets ahead for the time being. But remember, in fact, it'll be Austin William Campbell who gets ahead, I should say, correct myself. But then Trino Mikkelsen will then try and come back because they make the way through and up towards the Molesay corner they go. But remember, it's a long run, and then you've still got the run down towards Indianapolis. But from then, we've also got a bit of a squabble playing out here between Hill, Philippe Ray, and Aaron Beaver. This is for third place in the GTP AM class, I should say, as they come on down. And as they make the way on through, I think Beaver's had the best run of all three of them there, coming out the second part of Miles. I think Ray might have had a bit of an error through the corner, because he's lost a lot of time, and as they make the way onto the brakes, well, nothing between them as they make the way on through. Hill goes a little bit deep, Beaver almost follows him, and Ray gets the best launch of the trio. But look at the closing speeds to them here. I think it's going to be 3 wide coming down towards Indianapolis at this rate. Beaver pulls out, looks the inside here, and makes the car wide to say to Ray, look, don't think about it, but the door's open in the middle there if Ray wants to go for it. But I think the Empire Motorsport driver will play the safe game here, which is let the two in front of him fight and see whether there's a little bit of a moment between them as they come down to the corner of Indianapolis. They roll on into the right hand, and in the as they come down to the brakes, Hill round the outside and defends it successfully for the inside of the main left-hander. As they come in towards Arnage, Ray now looks up the inside onto the brakes. He goes for 1, he goes for 2, a little tap there on the inside of Hill. He can't quite find it initially, but he's going to get the power down here as they make the way through. And look at that Cadillac go, it'll be full battery deployment here. Ray wants to get this done. Hill's flashing his lights, he's not too happy. Hill feels as though there's a bit of a push to pass there. Ray would argue this is going to be close race as the Empire Motorsport driver takes both of the places there, and well, that's very brave stuff from the Scotsman, but sometimes you've got to be brave to try and make it happen, and he does exactly that as he makes way to the Porsche girls, only to find a faceful of what is Andrew Skinner as they come on through. But Skinner there steering wide and letting the GTPs roll their way through the Porsche curves. Close racing between them. I don't think this is done quite yet, but meanwhile, as they settle the differences for the time being, we do look from them back to the GT3 class, in particular to Adrian Kukulas. Right now chasing after Lawrence Marsh and looking to try and get some more overall GT3 places as they make the way through the Dunlop curve and in towards the Dunlop chicane once again. The third of this race complete. We still do have the best part of 39 minutes plus the final lap to go. This race not over by any means, ladies and gentlemen. We do have both Sight Anti and Austin William Campbell into the pit lane, and I believe that might be for scheduled stops between them, but we'll have to wait and see. Darren Orquette, they're getting caught up quite heavily behind the car of Lawrence Marsh for a brief moment coming through was the S's, so therefore Norquette really feeling the GT3s on going through the turn 5 through the 7 complex, and that cost him quite a bit of time there versus his pursuit of what we saw to Guariento. And we're speaking of Guariento, we haven't really talked about him too much since the start of today, but we will in due course. Meanwhile, as we can see here, we can see Trevino Mikkelsen and what is there, Ollie Pimley, both going the opposite way around. Reverse Moses on Ryan Moles there, the GT3 Pro-Tech Motorsport Porsche 992, and right now these two fighting for overall position. You'd think they were fighting for the win of the race, getting how close they're fighting, but as they come into the braking zone there, more it looks like almost a near lock-up from Pimley. Both of them not locking up there, despite the overspeed, and also working their way past the GT3s, two maestros of their craft as they come down the second part of Mulsanne. And right now Pimley has got ahead of Trina Mikkelsen, but there again we can see the Race Lab Esports driver right behind right now, not out of this yet. And meanwhile, speaking of close battles of the circuit, here's Andrew Dawson and Paul Busby, your race leaders in the GTP Pro category, and overall they're only separated by 3 attempts, and these two keep on swapping places. And I think it is just as much perhaps working together for the two teammates as it is a little bit of back and forth tussle between them, keeping the fact in mind that Dawson's coming to this championship quite late in the day. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see towards the end of today potentially Dawson give way to Busby, with regards to the fact that Busby with a win today, well, it could be a second win of the season. He'll be the first repeat winner in the GTP Pro category after 4 different winners in in 4 races, and therefore that would give Busby a huge points injection going into the second half of the season. But then again, will it be as straightforward as that, or will Dawson want to go racing? Because at the end of the day, they're all racers here, ladies and gentlemen. They all want to win, and well, there's no easy day in racing, I can tell you that. But as they make the way out of Van Arge right now, as an effect simulations 1, 2, and 3, well, he's fallen a bit off the pace compared to his 2 teammates, but Joshua Wilson still comfortably ahead in the class by 6 seconds over Sam Sherwood, and just leading away there on that final step of the podium. As he heads up to speed here, a bit further back we can see Salvatore Guariento, who right now is chasing down Sam Sherwood. The gap between these two, the best part of 7 tenths, and the key point being that the Mural.io driver from Italy really doing such a solid job in the Porsche 963 today, looking happy in that car, and right now untouchable compared to his peers. He's got an 8-second advantage over Ollie Pimley. There's a long race to go over, so we won't sing his praises too high, because we don't want to flip the commentator's curse on him, which has happened a number of times this season already. But I'll tell you one thing, the 210 driver here looking good, but right now with Darren Norquette immediately behind him, I wonder whether he'll defend this, or whether he may let Norquette go and let Norquette go chasing after Sam Sherwood. As they come through the Corvette curves here, we'll start to see a potential answer to that question. Norquette switching to the inside. Will he go for under braking? No, backs out there and recognises it's too tight into the apex of 2 cars. Coming on through the second of the Ford chicanes then. Guariento holds position right now as he goes onto lap number 8 of racing in the GTP class. And then across that timeline, with the gap between these two could not be close, as Ollie Pimley into the pits. Meanwhile, as I look at my commentary booth window, so deciding to pit early here and perhaps go for the undercut. Heckel Gestad, meanwhile, sets a new fastest lap of the race in the GT3 category. And there is Gestad as he's passed by Guariento, and that was, I believe, a 356.45 to the nearest 100th. So right now, Gestad just gradually sauntering off into the distance in the GT3 Pro category, and looking strong here today versus the likes of Chris Kirtland and Chris Constable, who in return are only separated by what is 4 tenths here as they make their way down to the S's. This is the battle for P2 in the GT3 Pro class, and a great battle started to build here. But again, Kirkland holding on, despite the expectations say the Porsche 992 would really struggle at the Le Mans circuit. It does seem to be that right now Constable able to stay right there with him, but not able to make the pass happen. The Magic right now really holding in the favour of the Porsche, but then again, how much of this race is potentially Constable just fuel saving behind and then opting to go on the offensive in the pit strategy rather than on track? That's the question, because do keep in mind that if Constable feels as though the pace that Kirkland is showing is good pace and where he expected his race to be, and the fact that Gestad's already pulled 10 seconds up the road, he may be feeling as though everything right now is all about staying in position. But meanwhile, just behind, nobody's staying in position in this battle for P2 in the GTP AM class, as that's going to be Ray up the inside of Beaver, but they make contact, and Ray off into the wall there. The car goes charging into the tyre barrier, and well, that has not worked out at all for them, as Billy Bob Ray is towed to the pits. Aaron Beaver right now, the car carries on here, but the UK Sim Racing Bell car will be afflicted with some significant side damage on that right hand side, and well, that's not the way anybody expected that battle to go. And well, we get a replay of that very shortly. In fact, we will get a replay immediately of what happened there, but that was a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure. And as they made their way down towards the braking zone, Ray looking up to the inside here. Onto the brakes they both went. Neither driver went to back out. Ray getting it stopped in time. But I think there may have just carried a little bit too much speed to the apex. And well, Beaver in the end turning in to find what was the car meant by Motorsport on there on the apex. We take another look back from what was the on-board perspective of Beaver's car. And you'll notice, look to the right of your picture very gradually. You'll suddenly see Ray comes up very strongly here. And, well, I think Beaver turned in thinking the cars were perhaps clear. It's a very difficult one to gather, but in the Ray coming off the worst of the two by a significant margin. And Beaver then just able to carry on his merry way. Albeit I think he might have some damage on that car, which won't make him feel too comfortable with it. But what a difficult moment there. And I think Ray just carried a bit too much speed for the corner. And in the end, Beaver being caught out by it. But that will be one for the stewards to take a look at after today. But while we do look from what is our GTP and second place driver here, who's got the ground pressure of Alex Hill behind the GTP Pro driver. I think you've seen it all now in terms of unfolding and around him. And right as he goes onto the brakes, and the Englishman gets it wrong under braking there into Arnage corner. And whilst our cameraman does focus on the livery of the car, I can tell you one thing, it's going to be Hill who's going to be focusing immediately on waiting to let that happen. But I think that might be a lock up on the brakes there, and the rear brakes letting go before the front brakes under a full lock up, and Hill having to now get the car back together. But that is not going to be one that he's going to recover from easily, given the fact the tyres will feel very hot indeed. But meanwhile, we look here just behind him to the battle still between Chris Kirtland and Chris Constable, the battle of Ferrari versus Porsche as they make the way in towards the Porsche curves here. And well, if you think we're perhaps thinking of a similar title, you'd be thinking of the Le Mans 66 movie of what was Ford versus Ferrari. But here today, it's Porsche versus Ferrari as they make their way through the Porsche curves and go and sweep through the left into right here. Right now, it does look as though Constable just holding close behind and Kirtland doing everything, throwing everything at this to keep the 1-2-1 Britain behind him. But then again, could we see the switching of the positions when we do go into what will be at the pit stops? That will be the big tell here, because Constable right now, if he can't find a way through in the pits, then this could be a battle that goes all the way to the closing stages as they wind the way off of the Ford chicanes and on to the next lap. Meanwhile, we look to Auden Hegersetter as the Racing Lab Esports Moza driver, recently being passed by Ollie Pimley, who's on the recovery drive now after coming out of the pit. And keeping in mind, of course, that Pimley making a pit stop quite early on, so therefore finding himself out of position. Hegersetter also, well, in fact, Hegersetter yet to make a pit stop, and right now running in P14 overall, P5 in the GT AM class. So he makes his way through the Ford chicanes. A lot of patience there behind Jack Barker as well, it should be pointed out. Very respectful driving there from the 313 driver to just stay behind the GT3, but as they make the way on to the next lap, Hegersetter trying to go hunting, but his main target will be David Rolliston, and Rolliston right now the best part of what is 40 seconds up the road, and I think Hegersetter involved in an instant much earlier on, which will cost him quite a sizable portion of time as he heads in towards the Dunlop chicane and through here. Meanwhile, we do look a little bit further back down the order to Jack Barker, who right now on lap number 8 for the GT3 is running P3 in class, albeit with the pit stop at Noel Killing just getting underway now. So therefore, we will be seeing a few drivers out of position here, but Barker having a very quiet race after that instant of unfolding in front of him, in the form of Matt Edmondson going through the second Multiclass chicane in the early stage of the race. But Barker on course for a top 5 here today, and that Audi R8 right now just being allowed to operate in a bit of breathing space. Albeit I say that as we look to the rear of the picture, he does have a growing threat on the horizon, and that's the form of the UK Sim Racing Mansell car of Mark Johnson, the 44 Porsche 992, closing quite gradually here. And to put you in the frame of mind, Johnson on that previous lap taking almost 1.7 seconds out of Barker, and well, I think a bit of traffic might have played into the mix there, but Johnson is closing and right now trying to bring that gap down as quickly as he possibly can as we move into the second half of the race here at Le Mans. It's been a tricky race for so many. We have had a few incidents, but in terms of retirement so far, we have had the confirmed retirements of the following drivers. From what I understand, is the retirement of what was firstly Darren Sharples. Well, in fact, no, Sharples is out there on circuit. I will correct myself there immediately. I think we have had the retirements of Rudy Avitsland, Satinder Deemsa, and also John Davis. So we had 39 starters, still 36 runners, but otherwise everyone's still going or in the pit lane having cars repaired or being serviced at the moment, including Billy Bob Ray. Although we're waiting for confirmation if Ray's car will be back out on circuit, ladies and gentlemen, it could be a retirement that's going to occur. But as we do look to Johnson, they're still closing down Barker. Meanwhile, well, we talk about these two as they continue to fight for P2 in the GT3 Pro class, and will the closure rate stays the same here, which is negligible. It's 3 to 4 attempts as the two of them make their way out towards Indianapolis for what is the 9th time of asking here, in fact the 8th time of asking, and it is Chris Kirtland versus Chris Constable. It's the battle of the two Chris's, and meanwhile behind sight Anti there in the GTP Pro car, flashing his lights to say he's coming through, albeit as they make their way into the corner, Anti comes in blazing hot there, and Kirtland having to move the car, flash his lights. He's not too happy about the way that's played out. You can understand why, but Constable there very wary, I think, of knowing what was coming and deciding just to steer clear and let Kirtland have to deal with the situation. So Constable there not really gaining as a result, but playing the safety measure, and I think by being safe there, gaining what was a little bit of reassurance and not having to worry about yoinking the car to one side of the circuit at short notice. Kirtland meanwhile having to do exactly that, but meanwhile at the front of the field, Paul Busby moving back ahead there of Andrew Dawson as they make the way on through the first of the Multiclass chicanes and on to the second part of the Multiclass straight. These two, the teammates from Effect Simulations, they continue to swap the lead between them, and they have a growing gap, and you can see there Joshua Wilson in the distance, and that gap is 17 seconds, and it is growing by the day. These two are lapping 1.5 seconds a lap faster than the rest of the field, ladies and gentlemen, on average. The gap is staggering, and keep in mind they're running in the toe of one another as well. That will be benefiting them. Meanwhile, Wilson by comparison has no toe to work with, so therefore the Effect Simulations 1, 2, 3, with the 1-2 at the front right now, that is really opening up an absolute monster of an advantage, and this race in the GTP Pro class will be between the two of them, we reckon, come the end of the day as they make their way down towards Mulsanne Corner. as they power the way on down here. The two Cadillacs both looking strong. Meanwhile, a little bit further back in the rear of the picture, we see Christopher Bates. He's running P8 in the GT3 AM class, and the RGV racing driver. After what has been one pit stop accrued to his name, he has taken his pit stop for the day. Going a bit deep there into Moles and letting Billy Bob Ray on go. So Billy Bob Ray, no retirement there, back out on the circuit, which is great to see. We always love to see cars that have been afflicted with a major incident back out there and staying in the race, in it to win it, as we like to say. But meanwhile, we're hearing that Jack Barker is coming into the pit lane to look at the contact booth window. So Mark Johnson being given P3 in the GT3 AM class there, and will try to work that track position to his advantage when he comes into the pits now by trying to go for a set of qualifying laps effectively. But Bates here just making his way down towards Indianapolis right now in a bit of a quiet race, but again, he could factor back into that top 5 when all the pit stops are played out, depending on exactly where his rivals will be by comparison. But you do have to keep in mind that this man, Noel Killing, is currently the leading GT3 AM driver who has served a pit stop, and the Mural.io driver right now in terms of his lap times is looking very fast indeed. As he comes through the forward chicanes here, once again, Marvin Cruz just behind, but Killian continues to try and charge on here. And well, with Barker and also Thomas Barjak in the pit lane, well, Barker is leaving the pits currently, but he will be on the limiter there, so Killian will make his way on through, and Noel Killian will retake the lead of the GT3 AM category in terms of those drivers who have made a pit stop already, but Barker's not too far behind. So Killian here right now, I definitely think he's looking to be coming back out in P2, but if he cuts the curb there at turn number 2 going into Dunlop chicane, as much as that, he may get a slowdown for a misdemeanor, and that could really hurt his race. He's going to be careful with doing that on a regular basis. But meanwhile, looking from him to Lawrence Marsh. And he driving for Downforce Racing at P2 currently in the number 22. The car that had to steer clear of all the chaos when Deanset and Sharples came together, and also Killian being involved in that incident as well. And meanwhile, Adrian Kukulas right behind, I think, trying to give Mars a little bit of push along here as they make the way up towards what is the second Mulsanne chicane. And well, just making their way onto the racing line, and Kukulas not trying to do anything too severe in terms of bump drafting it, given the fact that with the Welshman and the Australian on different sides of the world, and therefore netcode can become a significant thing in the simulator. I think Kukulas just staying behind and saving some fuel there to try and gain himself some strategy time versus Ryan Moles, who is 9 seconds ahead of the pair of them, as they head up towards what will be at turns 14 and 15 shortly. Meanwhile, we look to Peter Cox, battling here with, I believe, Casper Brotner, and Cox there on a very wide line. Has something gone wrong for Cox's car? Because he was in the ditch there coming off the side of the road. The car was actually struggling to come up onto the road from the king of what was turn at number 6. Now, I think Peter Cox may have just simply steered a bit too wide there and let the car fall off the circuit, but that road surface does slope away from the centre point, much like, say, a bowling alley lane, in terms of the fact the highest point is dead in the centre, and it just gradually slopes off, and Cox being caught out there as he makes his way into the braking zone for Arnargent, coming through the right-hander as the 68 driver got a problem with the car, or perhaps just a mistake. They're being caught a bit shy versus Casper Brotner. Well, either way, they swap places. Casper Brotner up into P4 in the GT3 Pro class. Yet to be at the same with Peter Cox here. So these two right now just running their own respective races and trying to manage it. But meanwhile, we've had an incident for this man, the GT3 AM leader, James Conley. That is at Arnage corner, I do believe. And what exactly has happened? Here's the replay. Making his way on through, coming out of Indianapolis, caught up behind the car there of what was old dudes in cars, Daniel Pays, and onto the brakes he went and went off of the curb. The rear of the car just letting go. I think he may have come down the gearbox a bit too aggressively there, and in the end caught a whole handful of revs in terms of where he's come down to first gear, and the car's just kicked around as a result. He's now got Ryan Moles company who's returned to your live pictures, but a rare error from the number 46 driver from UK Sim Racing Hill, and the driver who normally is one of the most consistent out there. You never see errors from Conley, but today we do see one, and could that cost him in the strategy battle versus Noel Killian? That will be the full process, as we do have the GT3 Pro top 5 all into the pits now. Christad, Kirtland, Constable, Brotner, Cox, also had Daniel Page just coming in. Conley comes in from the lead here, so it looks as though the GT3s have gone the furthest they possibly can in this race, and now it's all going to be about who's the fastest on the pit strategy, who's been able to save the fuel and whatnot. But meanwhile, the man who will be aware of this, he'll be goaded on by his pressure on the circuit, and also by the team. They'll be giving him all the words of encouragements he can, and that will be Noel Killian, who looks to try and take back the lead of the GT3 AM class of the strategy by going for the undercut. Marvin Cruz right behind them. Killian's pace right now really has not been up there compared to perhaps where it needs to be to take that position. So we will see. Verstappen has returned to the lead of the GT3 Pro class. He's already up towards the Dunlop chicane. And meanwhile, in that battle between Constable and Kirtland, Chris Constable has come out ahead. So Constable in the end was a 4-second faster stop. In fact, 3 seconds when all the maths is done. It's Constable who has taken P2 in the GT3 Pro class ahead of Kirkland. And now Kirtland having to give pursuit once again with the downforce racing driver. Now he's out of the tow already. Meanwhile, Killing coming on through the forward chicanes. I don't think it's enough for Killing here, because James Connie's already left his pit box. And as he makes his way off of the pit limiter, James Connie will return your leader of the GT3 AM class with Lawrence Marsh leaving the pit lane now. Will Marsh leave ahead of Killing? That's the question though. In fact, Noel Killing comes up through the bottom of your camera there. So Lawrence Marsh now P3, Johnson P4. Where is Skinner? Well, Andy Skinner or Andrew Skinner is in the pits. Jack Barker makes his way across the line. He's in P5. Now Johnson has made the jump on Barker in the pits there. So Johnson doing one extra lap versus Barker has worked out in Johnson's favour. But I think Barker at this point just focusing on getting that top 5. I think he'll be very happy if he can convert this into a finishing position. And well, one other thing he was saying to me in the build-up today is he expects this Audi to be a very thirsty car on the straight, and he wasn't too worried about fuel saving. His philosophy was, I don't care how long the pit stop is, they just need to give me the fuel to get to the end of the race. And will the 163 driver doing exactly that as he makes his way on through the S's here. Meanwhile, Thomas Barger making his way through the Rexy machine, takes P6 of the GT3 AM class off of Skinner, and therefore Skinner now having to battle his way back to the top 5 if he can in the time remaining. But we've also got some pit stops playing out in the GTP category now. Sherwood's into the pits, so is Alexander Schmidt-Carlson, Aaron Beaver as well. So all these pit stops now started to be factored in. And there is Beaver making his way to a stop. Sherwood just in the foreground of the camera on the left-hand side. He's up on the jacks there. Trina McCalson means so is. But Sherwood makes his way out of the pit lane. Where is this going to put him in relation to his rivals? Well, Sherwood in the end is going to come out P6 overall. And that is going to translate, given the fact that Darren Norquette and also Alex Hill have yet to pit. We believe this will put him back P4 when all is said and done strategy. So Sam Sherwood having a relatively quiet race right now, being the best rest outside of effect simulations. And meanwhile, Trina McCalson cross the line, but Sight Anti comes on through, and that's a position. Sight Anti takes P7, the GTP Pro class there. The privateer jumping ahead by going for the early pit stop. By comparison, a much earlier pit stop, indeed pitting 4 laps earlier. And Sight Anti here making some magic happen as he comes on down through the S's. And will Trina McCalson be able to close him back with 20 minutes of this race to go? We'll still plenty of playing for there. This is not over yet, but it will be a question of has he got enough fuel to do it? And indeed, we have seen a number of occasions whereby the race has gone one lap longer than everyone expected, and then we have multiple drivers that come into the pits on the penultimate lap, alternatively do an absolute plethora of fuel saving on that final lap. But as we look to the race leaders here, the overall leaders of Busby, and what is that? Andrew Dawson coming on down in towards what will be our large corner. And right now, these two just simply running comfortably as they make the way up towards the Porsche curves once again. Neither one of them worrying too much in terms of the pressure that's on them, but instead just managing this race, and the teamwork being displayed here is absolutely fantastic. And Busby right now holds that lead position as they make their way to the Porsche curves. And I want to tell you one thing, these two, they're not shy of running the dirty air of one another as they make their way on through the sweeping corners and up towards the Corvette curves. It's almost as if they've rehearsed this. To be honest, that is the fluidity with which they're running together as they make their way out of turn at number 26 and up towards the Corvette curves here at 27, 28 and into 29. As they make their way through, we'll see a pit stop here. Indeed we do. They both come in together, and as they wind their way out to their pit boxes, it will be a little bit of battle and strategy here. Both of the pit crew teams will be looking to be the number one out of the two of them, but meanwhile, looking to a battle on circuit here. This is the battle for P3 in the GTP AM class. And it's Pimley versus Beaver here, and these two have been fighting for some time. Before the pit stops they were fighting, and they're back fighting once again. Pimley has lost out to a degree versus Beaver, and Beaver now with some repair work done to the car. I think he'll be feeling as though he's got a car that's much happier in terms of how it feels, so Pimley's going to have to work against a fully capable Beaver, I should say, as they make it through, but Beaver locks up there under braking into Molzan as they make around the corner. Well, the pass is going to come quickly, and the DY13 racing driver gets it done initially, but will Beaver be able to come back here in the battle between the two Cadillacs? I think it's going to be Pimley's all the way here out towards what will be the Indianapolis corner as they charge the way through. Both these drivers have pitted, as we've said, so therefore any more overtaking is going to happen on circuit. And as they make the way into the braking zone here, will Beaver close, but not close enough to look at the count counter-attack. Meanwhile, in the pit lanes, I look at my commentary booth window, Dawson and Busby have come out together, albeit Dawson half a second ahead of Busby as they've made the way across the limiter line and up speed on towards the Dunlop chicane. But again, they practically come out together, near identical pit stops as well, so therefore we can expect the two of them to run those out all the way towards the end of this race. Wilson being serviced at the moment. I think we'll very shortly see the car come off the jacks and go racing once again. He's had a slightly longer pit stop compared to his teammates, but he hasn't had anybody to save fuel with, so you can understand why Wilson having a 26.5 second pit stop time compared to Dawson's 25.1 and Busby's 25.5. And that is the ability of fuel saving. They're making the difference. But right now, these two here are Pimley versus Beaver. Well, the only driver might be doing some fuel saving will be Beaver behind by staying in the tow. And it's understandable why. But meanwhile, Sam Sherwood comes roaring on through the Dunlop curve. And that is a key moment here in this race. So the battle for P4 as Darren Norquette comes out just behind. But the gap that Norquette's closed up on strategy is absolutely incredible. He has gained and brought that gap down to when it's only 1.2 seconds here. And when they came into the pits initially, the gap was standing at 3 seconds. So Norquette has made this work. Plus also he's gained a second in the pit stop times. So Norquette right now trying to chase down P4. And well, there's a little bit of a rivalry between these two. And for those who are out of the loop, there's become this slight running joke down in the paddock with regards to the fact that both of these drivers were dominant in the GTP AM class, and they've respectively been promoted to the GTP Pro class. So they have been advised that right now, really by being moved through the class, they're no longer expected to really be winning the races, given the fact that FX Simulations today and a number of other drivers really have been dominant up there. So therefore there's been this little rivalry that's formed between them in the fact they're both looking to be the number one of the two promoted drivers to the class. Albeit you never know, later on this season they could go for an overall win, and I wouldn't put it past them, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't put them down, because these two are proven to be extremely capable and they will pick up the pace when others drop it. You can be certain of that. But right now, to see the two promotees of the GTP Pro class nose to town circuit together, I think you all agree is fantastic to see. And in their battle for P4, it may not be a podium that's on the cards today currently, but I tell you one thing, they'll feel as though this is a little win in their own way as they make the way out of Mulsanne chicane number 2, as they charge their way up towards the Mulsanne hairpin very gradually here. Meanwhile, we do look back very shortly to David Lowison, who has come up behind the Tiger Sim Racing machine of David Rolliston. It's the battle of the two Davids. We talked about the battle of the two Chris's in the GT3 Pro class earlier, but all the action right now really happening in the GT3 Pro class and the AM class as well. The GT3 is coming alive here after the pit stops as they make the way on down what will be the second part of the Mulsanne and on towards the second chicane very shortly, and Larson inching closer. Meanwhile, we have had a move in the GT3 AM class off camera. Johnson has found his way ahead of Lawrence Marsh. We'll try and get a replay of that very shortly. There has been a swap between the two of them, and whether it's been aided by a slowdown or alternatively it's just happened naturally, we'll have to wait and see. But here we stay with Larson right now as the Acura driver storms his way on the gearbox here of Rolliston as they make the way past Christopher Bates. And right now these two will locked into a battle for P4, the first spot outside the podium places, and there's always been an accolade with that as Larson getting much closer under braking. And well, there was this rumour going down the paddock in the build-up to tonight. The Acura was on average a second a lap off the pace compared to the Cadillac, but I can tell you one thing, these two showing the difference of it. I think Larson just feeling a lot more comfortable on the brakes of this Acura compared to the Cadillac in front, and also through the corners. And as they make the way in towards what we ended up at this point, you can see the Cadillac is pulling away here, but in return Larson does have the toe to work with. He holds the revs as high as possible, 6th gear, as he now comes into the braking zone here, bringing the car gradually down. And I think Larson will be using all the battery he's got available in order to stay close and try and make this pass happen sooner rather than later as they head in towards Arnage for what for them is the 14th. Well, in fact, it will be the 13th time of asking, with lap number 14 underway from our GTP Pro leaders further up the circuit. As they come on through there, Lowison having a bit of a poor run out of Arnage. The gap to Rolliston now opens up to 1 whole second, and we take a look back at the pass that was made for what was at the time P3 in the GT3 AM class by Johnson on Marsh. Here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, and Marsh there holding on the right of picture, the natural race line going into Indianapolis. Johnson looks like the inside. This isn't the second king before they made the way into the corner, and Johnson getting ahead there, and Marsh not really fighting it too hard. I think perhaps Marsh at this point just letting Johnson take track position, but knowing if he can stay behind him for the remainder of this race, it could come back his way in the closing stages and will be a slipstream orientated battle. But Johnson getting ahead then to Indianapolis and then into a large corner. What a little bit of an altercation almost with, I think that was Wilson, the GTP Pro Class, the Effect Simulations car coming on through, albeit they did it cleanly, but the point being that Marsh finding the gap opened up a little bit further and perhaps not as much as he would like it to, as we return to your live pictures, and Larson still behind, as meanwhile Beaver's into the pits. Aaron Beaver's come in, and that's for his second pit stop for the 92 driver from the US of A, and will the UK Sim Racing Bell driver, that is a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure. Could that be a sign of something else to come here? That car has been stationary for quite some time, so whatever's happened here, Aaron Beaver right now definitely having a difficult end to this race, and that means that the battle of the two Davids, Rolliston versus Larson, now takes a step forward. It's actually a battle for P3 in the GPM class, not a battle for P4, as we do see Larson going very wide there, and I think he will have to lift off in order to give some time back. That'll be an automated slowdown here that the in-game shooting system has determined that he's gained some lap time, and Rolliston will find he's got a bit more breathing room. If so, will be the gap at the moment a second. And Larson, in fact, now backing off, they're having to lift. They've only got a certain amount of time to serve that slowdown penalty, and Larson doing exactly that as he makes his way towards the braking zone for the first of the Moles and chicanes. But as they come on through, meanwhile, we look from them back to the GT3 class, and here are your GT3 Pro drivers who are battling for P6 of the class. It's Page versus Moles as they make the way out of Moles, and Moles here getting a much better run by comparison. Left of your picture, it's with the Protect Motorsport Porsche that's trying to outdrag the Ferrari, and it's going to be an uphill battle as they make the way through the kink for the Porsche. And you can see that the Ferrari now starting to get the overspeed it needs to stay ahead. But Moles here not going to flinch as they make the way through the second kink. He's going to stay on that inside line. He's going to commit to this. Well, he's got to. That's the only way he's going to get past. And into Indianapolis they go, and Moles doing exactly what he needs to there to move up into P6 with a textbook move, coming on through the right into left, and now going in towards Arnage corner. Still 12 minutes to go plus the final lap. Well, Moles will know he's got to now try and make the breakaway, coming out of Arnage in towards the Porsche curves, but again, as we right on board, look back to the rear of the number 18 of Porsche, that Ferrari with lights on, gleaming in the rear view mirror for Moles. And as they head in towards the Porsche curve, you can see that gap gradually coming down. But I don't think Hayes has got enough here in order to be able to look for a move into the Porsche curve. He'll come close, but will he be close enough as Sherwood coming up behind with the GT Pro driver looks around the outside of one. Moles don't know he's coming. The two teammates will negotiate, and therefore Moles right now steering clear, loses a little bit of time there coming from the first part of the Porsche curve, but not too much. And in fact now can start to extract that gap again as Payne, you can see him to back off the Ferrari, not comfortable running through these corners compared to the Porsche. Negative put the dirty out over the top of it, and it is a potent combination which will absolutely harm the pace of Payne as he makes his way up towards the end of the lap. As they charge away in towards the forward chicanes, we have heard that Darren Norquette's had a bit of an instant further on down the order, ladies and gentlemen. And well, we looked at Darren Norquette. He's currently P6 in the GTP Pro class. He was battling with Sam Sherwood, but something has gone very wrong for Norquette. He's fallen behind Cy Anthony, and he's also got the GTP AM leader, Salvatore Guariento, now in front of him. But what exactly happened is the big question. Well, here's the replay. Well, this was coming on through Indianapolis, so Cy Anthony had already made the move there on Norquette, and now coming into the braking zone for Arnage. Is this going to be a lock-up? Well, if it is a lock-up, that's a very odd moment. Oh, goodness, being Guariento just about missing the side of Norquette's car. I've got no idea how he managed to steer clear of that, but credit where it's due. But we take a look back at the preceding moment here, and this was coming out of Molzane corner, so there was a lock-up there, I think, for Norquette. We saw some smoke going out. That would have been brake dust smoke, and as they made their way down sight, Anthony gets in the better run. Now going in towards the next corner, so Anthony up the inside, but Norquette here trying to come back, trying to battle with the position. This would have been for P5 in the GP Pro class at the time, and right on board here in Norquette, very close, but not able to find his way through, and into the braking zone they went. And as they did, Norquette backing out here, thinks about trying to go up the inside, can't quite get it done, and now making his way into what was on Arch corner. Let's listen. And Carl there, sounds as though it was a little bit of lock-up, but also dropping off of the entry curve there on the rear left-hand side tyre on the downshift, and that's kicked the car around for Norquette. But then looking back at that incident from Guariento's perspective, ladies and gentlemen, well, as we ride on board the Mural.io driver in this, watch how he's got to react to this incident. and doing incredibly well to stop the car in time. I think there was a bit of contact with the front right quarter of Guariento's car versus the front right quarter of Norquet's car, but nothing can be put past the fact that the Italian driver there doing everything he can in his caution to try and stop the car in time and just about avoiding it becoming a major incident between the two of them. But I wonder if there's any damage to both cars. I think there might be to Norquet's car from the spin alone on the tyres, but I just wonder if that little rub between them, I think we did hear between the body parts of the cars, whether that might hurt their pace later on in this race, albeit for Guariento, we're in an advantage of 13 seconds currently over Ollie Pimley. I think he'll feel relatively safe in that leader GTP AM class, but meanwhile, I think Norquet will be on the mission here to try and close down what we sight Anthony once again, with the gap being only 5 seconds or so, as they make their way on towards what will be Indianapolis corner. But then further behind Alexander Tremino-McAlison, he'll see in the distance Norquet, and he'll be like a shark to blood in the water, and the Norwegian driver here will still be on the charge as he makes his way on through. But as he does so, one driver who we haven't talked about for some time here from Racing Lab Esports Moser is Auden Hegeseta, and the Norwegian driver here enjoying a little bit of a quiet race, it must be said, currently in the BMW M V8 Hybrid, as he makes his way on through at Tetra Rouge here, running P6 in the GTP AM class. He is the best part of what is that, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, a gap of what is 26 seconds to Aaron Beaver in front of him in P5, but he in turn does have a 13-second gap to Billy Bob Ray behind. Ray is closing quite rapidly. In fact, that last lap, Billy Bob Ray did gain the best part of what was 13 seconds on Hegeseta. I wonder if there was a bit of a mistake for Hegeseta. In fact, there was an off-track for the 313 driver as we look to our data, but right now he's just trying to hold on to P6 here at the end of the day, and well, I think the BMW driver just not comfortable with this Le Mans circuit, and it's understandable given the amount of juggling that Racing Lab Esports are currently having to do between the Norwegian National Finals and also racing this league, and therefore practice time at a premium. But as he makes his way on down, still on the grid, and it's always great to see the 313 driver out there and trying to do his best here to bring home some key points in this championship campaign. But he heads on through the chicane. Meanwhile, we do look from him back to what is Daniel Pays, and Pays being passed by Brian Moles earlier on. As you may remember, they made their way into Indianapolis. Moles having to throw everything at this battle, but the Portuguese now trying to come back versus the Briton, as they make their way up towards the forward chicanes here. On the charge they go, and as they do so, well, right now Pays kind of a little bit deep there, and that Ferrari really heavily affected by running in the toe of that Porsche. It's very interesting to see as we ride on board here with Pays. I think it's almost in a way as if he's actually running a little bit more rear wing on this car. Perhaps he's opened up the gear ratios by comparison, but either way, this car being very heavily affected by the dirty air of that Porsche. You just see it into those braking zones, the car not wanting to rotate under entry, and therefore number 8 right now, he's close, and I think if he can get a bit close, if he can get within 4 tenths going out by these corners, Pays will really be on the offensive, but Moles just able to take the exits much more comfortably with that clean air, and therefore able to break away. But as they make the way on through left into right here, of what is the S's and onwards towards Tetra Rouge. We do see a message there from Nick Rice 20 in the Twitch chat. First time at Chatterdown. I do believe that's Nicholas Rice, who unfortunately couldn't join us on the grid today, but we're very happy to see him tuning in. If that is you, Nicholas, I hope you're doing it well, and of course one of our main contenders in the GT3 AM Championship this season, but using this as a drop score and drawing our attention to the fact that right now the gap between the GT3 AM leaders of Conley and Killen is coming down rapidly, and in fact, as we can see here, Conley right now only 2 seconds clear, and as we do look to the lap time delta between the two of them, between Conley and Killen, let's bring that up on screen. Starting with the time delta over the course of the last couple of laps. Well, the information provided there not too helpful, in fact. That doesn't really give us too much information, but let's look at the lap time information, and here we go. This is the better picture. Well, in fact, that's not the better picture at all, as it's showing us between Conley and Pays, but I think in fact we might be able to now see it between Conley and Killen, and there we go, at the third time of trying, and as we can see there, that gap has come rapidly down, albeit you have to exclude lap 10 because that was the pit stop lap as delivered by Conley. But the key point being, in the last couple of laps, that gap has come down by 1.5 seconds, and it is continuing to come down here as they make their way on down the second part of Mulzan. And whilst we're looking at this, meanwhile, there's been a bit of a battle between Daniel Pays and Ryan Moles that's happened off camera, albeit I believe Moles is still ahead of Pays. There might have been an off track for Pays as part of that, so we will get a replay of what happened there very shortly. But right now, we could definitely have a GT3 AM lead battle going on to the final lap of racing for the class here today as they make their way up towards Mulzan, and Killen right now definitely on a mission to hunt down his mark as they make their way in towards Mulzan hairpin in the distance. They charge away on through here, the Porsche 902 having to go against the Elements here, and will right now Killing doing everything in his power to make sure that the flat 6 of the German machinery is able to take to the top step of the GT3 AM Class A. Conley still giving it everything he's got in the Ferrari by comparison, but from them, meanwhile, we've also got the resurgence of the battle of the two Chris's, ladies and gentlemen, and this is, in fact, it's not the battle of the two Chris's anymore. You have to pardon us there. There's Chris Constable in the foreground of the camera, P2, he's running away, but it's the battle of the two Porsches, Kirkland versus Peter Cox, and as Chris Kirkland here makes his way in towards the aforementioned Porsche curves, right now the 112 driver under huge pressure, having to go defensive here. This is the final spot in the GT3 Pro podium, and Cox is going to look around the outside. He's going to be brave to try and go for it here, in the fact that it does sweep back to the left-hander, but Cox can't quite get close enough. We jump aboard with Peter Cox. They come on through the left-hander and in towards the right, and as we can see right now, the UK Sim Racing Hill driver squirming all over the back of his rival, but the thing is, around here, really most of the moves do happen on what will be the straight, and now it's going to be for Cox to just simply stay this close all the way up into the Mulsanne and then pick the right place. As we see up the inside goes David Rolliston as they make the way on through. Onto the brakes they go. At an instant for Darryl Norquette and Simon Hartley meanwhile, and as they come on through there and into left-hander, well, David Larson and David Rolliston exchanging places just in front as well in the battle for P3 in the GTP AM class. So we've got places playing out aplenty right now as they make the way on through. Meanwhile from them, we do have a bit of an instant as the curve between Darryl Norquette and I believe Simon Hartley, and here's the replay that's happened between these two. Darryl Norquette, I think, in an instant of his own, unless I'm mistaken, going into the Dunlop curve. That's Simon Hartley going into the braking zone, turns in, and Norquette in the end thinking the door was open and making contact with the TU Simsport machine, and a difficult one there. I think Norquette feeling as though, well, Hartley had already given the space to one car, why not both? Hartley, I think, just not seeing Norquette coming, so therefore I think the two might have a chat with that one after race. And we've also had Cy Anthony pass Sam Sherwood only moments ago for P4 in the GTP Pro class. Well, lots starting to happen in the very late stages here, coming out of the Corvette curves, and Anthony getting a much better run in towards the Ford chicanes. Side by side they went, and as they went on in, they're very close. They're getting caught up as well behind Hartley at the time, and then Anthony using the GT3 there as a bit of a buffer, and a lovely piece of overtaking there, and multi-class strategy from Cy Anthony to take full place in the GTP Pro class. Brilliant drive there from the Welshman as he returns to live pictures, and great call out there for Jay Winks in the Twitch chat, bringing our attention to that. But meanwhile, in the battle for third place in the GTP AM category, with only 2 minutes left on the clock here as we return to live pictures, this is Larson versus Rolliston, the battle of the two Davids. But who is going to be the Goliath of the two as they make the way down towards the braking zone? Well, it's going to be Rolliston on when it's the right of your picture, Larson on the left, and Rolliston on the inside of the braking gets it covered off. But remember, they have got another 2 long straights here before they make the way on to what will be Indianapolis and the shorter runs lap. And keep in mind, after this lap, they've got another lap to come, as our race leader of Paul Busby right now has crossed the start-finish line to go on to lap number 18. So these guys will be battling one more lap before it's all said and done. And as they make the way down in towards what is Mulsanne corner once again. Meanwhile, Kirkland versus Cox. Cox there on the inside. And well, Peter Cox, I think, definitely wanting to explore the track limits as much as possible. But they're getting very liberal with how wide the circuit is. And Kirkland getting back ahead in the battle for P3 GT3 Pro. I wonder if Cox perhaps just trying to bleed some speed out the car to go for the move here on the run down towards Indianapolis. But definitely there, we haven't got anything to suggest something's gone wrong with Peter Cox's car. But definitely running very wide on that straight as they make the way down towards Indianapolis corner. In the draft he goes, and as they do so, our race leaders are on to one final lap of racing here. The GT3s will likely get another lap in, so long as they have not been lapped twice. And as they make the way down here, well, Kirtland right now, I mean, he'll be hoping he can just stay one step ahead for the remainder of this race. But meanwhile, the big talking point, of course, being Paul Busby and Andrew Dawson, your 2 leaders here. The effect simulations 1 and 2 unfolding with a 34.5-second advantage over their third teammate of Joshua G. Wilson. So effect simulations 1, 2, 3 potentially here, but which of these two will be the one who takes the win? You would argue on paper, if the team are playing the championship game, it'll be Busby who takes the win, because then that will benefit his championship and make it so he's got 2 wins to his name compared to his rivals. But Andrew Dawson as well on his debut would love to pick up a win, but then again, they're both level-headed drivers, and we know that the Epic down at Effect Simulations is a very strong one when it comes to team ethics. But as they make the way on around, meanwhile, Side by side here between Niall Killing and James Conley as they come into the braking zone. There's contact between the two into Indianapolis, and we just catch it at the moment in time, which is absolutely spot on. And Killing there absolutely fuming, I think, with the contact between them as they made the way on down. But what exactly preceded that story, that's the big question, and we're going to take to a replay of that, ladies and gentlemen, as they made them out of moles, and so Killing in the end getting the better run out of the hairpin, and it was a side-by-side run all the way through the kinks here. Killing getting a nose ahead initially, but Conley not wanting to back out of this. Keep in mind, I think they have got another lap of racing to come as they made the way through the second king, and you see Conley in the throw in the right of your picture getting back inside there, fully aligned with Killing. Into the braking zone they went, and Conley not backing out, but the rear of the car letting go slightly there, and I think Killing felt as though he got it done. Conley got the car stopped just in time, but Killing in the end being rubbed there and pushed wide as a result, and well, a very tenuous grip on the car there from James Conley. To be fair, to catch it like that did well, but Killing now falling back, but they will have one more lap of racing because your race leaders, your overall leaders, are just making their way down towards the push curves at the moment, so Killing may still be able to get back into this fight. Both of them in deep there, good point from a divide roll, so incredibly close, but could there be a bit more in terms of a twist in this tower before it's all said and done? Killing's not going to give up on this, but he does have a 3-second gap to close down, and that could be too big of a gap before this is all over today. But meanwhile, Darren Orkett missing a rear wing there. He's had an off track only moments ago, and the Racing Forces Cadillac definitely not looking in great shape right now. But meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, we must look to these two as they make their way up towards the line. It's Busby ahead of Dawson, and I think this sound are going to stay. And well, it was a dominant qualifying lap from Andrew Dawson, but in the end, it will be Paul Busby who brings on home a 1-2 for Effect Simulations and makes his second win of the season. He's our first repeat winner in the GTP Pro class, but they've dominated the class here today. Sensational driving, and then it will be a 35-second gap, so it will be Joshua Wilson who come through shortly. But there's Andrew Dawson, his debut at P2 in class for Effect Simulations, and a flawless race between the two of them to be separated by 2 tenths of the checker flag. But here comes Joshua G. Wilson, and whilst that first race win still eludes him, it will be a podium today, and it will win Effect Simulations 1, 2, 3, much like in qualifying. And Wilson takes that third and final spot on the GTP podium overall in the Pro class there. Congratulations to Wilson and Effect Simulations for a fantastic drive. But then we do still have more to come here, whereas we do see Cy Anthony make his way through. It's going to be a P4 in the class for him, and a P4 overall as the privateer makes his way on down into what will be the final set of braking zones, and a great drive on through in the end to make his way all the way to P4 with some brilliant batting there for the privateer from Wales. And then behind him, well, ladies and gentlemen, they said a Porsche could not win at Le Mans in this league, and here it comes. Salvatore Guariento takes the GTP and win in the Porsche 963, flashing his lights there forwards, the Italian, and you can understand why. The Porsche takes its first win of the season, and Guariento with it. Sam Sherwood comes on through for P5 in the GTP Pro class, ahead of Alexander Tremino McCalson. Ollie Pimley, the runner-up in the GTP AM class there, and it'll be David Rolliston who will shortly perhaps come through for the podium, but Austin William Campbell behind him, and then it will be Alex Hill who makes his way to the line here for TQ Sim Sport Copper. And then we do have Rolliston right now making his way on around here, but as he does so, in front of him will be Matt Edmondson, who'll be coming on through for what will be P9 in the GT3 AM class as they make their way through the last couple of corners. But credit where it's due to David Rolliston. He was the superior of the two. David Stay of Rolliston Loves, and he rounds off the GTP AM podium. It will then be shortly behind him David Larson, who comes on through for Symphony Esports, and then it will be after them. We've got a bit of time to go yet, ladies and gentlemen, until we have everybody finish. But here comes a man who has not seen victory this season, but today he is going to see victory, ladies and gentlemen. He comes through the last couple of corners, and your GT3 overall and pro winner is none other than Hekon Gustav for Ignium Motorsport in a brilliant drive to finish 28 seconds clear of his rivals as he comes across the line. It will then be behind him P10 finisher in the GT3 AM class of Sire Hartley. It's not been a great day for TQ Sim Sport Tyre, but it's been a great day for breast cancer awareness on the car, and Simon Hartley will know he's put it all the way to the end, carrying on the fight for the team. And then it will be behind them very shortly, I do believe. It won't be Niall Killing, but it will be Chris Constable, who finishes runner-up in the GT3 Pro class, and the winner of the battle of the two Chris's today in the GT3 Pro class there for UK Sim Racing Mansell. Chris Kirtland holds onto the podium in the end, keeping Casper Bronner just behind him for downforce Racing. Old Dudes in Cars, Ferrari driver Brotner P4, and then crossing the line behind them will be Aaron Beaver P5 in the GTP AM class. We then have Ryan Moles coming through for P5 in the Protect Motorsport Porsche. A top 5 there, still a hard-earned one at that, but we still got more to come, ladies and gentlemen. Here comes Peter Cox, who holds off Daniel Pace to the line in all the battling between the UK Sim Racing Hill and Old Dudes in Cars drivers. But meanwhile, here comes a driver who, under pressure from Noel Killing, he managed to hold him off. There was a bit of a battle between them, a bit of a rubber swing to Indianapolis, but I think they'll sort it after the race. But for now, James Connolly will be your GT3 and winner, his first win of the season for UK Sim Racing Hill in the Ferrari 296, ahead of Noel Killing, who'll be runner-up. He'll be gutted, but at the end of the day, I think he'll turn that frown upside down and smile at the fact the Mural.io driver continues to go from strength to strength. It wasn't a win for the Porsche 992 today, but still a great drive all the same. And it'll be Adrian Kukulis just behind there. And then last but not least, in terms of that podium in the GT3 AM class, it's Lawrence Marshall Downforce Racing with your last finishers coming through. Well, Jack Barker's already finished his race, ladies and gentlemen, but that last finisher there, the wrong stuff's John Davies. And let's not forget him, number 26 driver. I hear he's been blighted with technical issues today, but those issues haven't stopped him from finishing. And a special mention here to the debutant in the GT3 AM class of Jack Barker, who in the end has come through for P4 in the Audi R8 LMS. Well, he went into this one not expected to be anywhere on pace. He's found his way to a 4th place finish in the GT3 AM class, and what a day it's been for the 163 driver on his debut. Not a foot wrong in the end. It may not have been a podium, but that will feel like a win for him. But what a race for our drivers, ladies and gents. But as we see Connolly cooling down now on what will be his final lap of this circuit today. Goodness me, it has been a phenomenal set of battles, running all the way to the wire. And let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are, starting with the overall finishing positions. And as we can see, after 60 minutes of racing in round 5 of the GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1, as hosted by UK Sim Racing, brought to you on the iRacing Simulator platform, Paul Busby in the end leading a 1-2-3 for Effect Simulations. It's the first time we've seen this happen in a long time in the UK Sim Racing Series, but Effect Simulations there absolutely delivering and dominating today. Busby ahead of teammate Dawson, who on his debut taking P2, only 1.5 tenths behind in what was a run nose to tail between the two of Busby and Dawson from start to finish. And then Joshua Wilson, he may not be in the pace of his two teammates, but still one step ahead of the rest of the field and completing that trio of positions. Behind them, from the overall podium of the GTPs and also the GTP Pro podium, Cy Anthony there, P4, the privateer, ahead of Salvatore Guariento, and the Mural.io driver bringing home a win for the Porsche 963 in the GTP AM class there, and Guariento really in a form of his own today in the class. And then Sam Sherwood, P6 for Protect Motorsport, ahead of Alexander Truno McCalson, with Ollie Pimley, P8 for DY13 Racing. Second place in the GTP AM class there, and a great drive for Pimley, having to battle his way hard through the field, and indeed finishing as the runner-up in the AM category ahead of Austin William Campbell for Simon Esports and Alex Hill for Tiki Simsport Corpa. David Rolliston, P11 at best of rest overall on the Tiger Racing team, driver finishing 3rd on the GTP AM podium, ahead of David Larson, the Symphony Esports driver, missing out there 7 seconds at the end, but it was much closer between the two of them over the entirety of the race. And then Aaron Beaver, P13 for UK Sim Racing Bell, ahead of Alden Hegeseter, the Racing Lab Esports Moser driver, P14 there, or what was in the end at P6 in the GTP AM class. And a bit of a silent race day for Hegeseter, but still bringing that car home and some key points with it. But then we come to our drivers who finished a lap down, including Darren Norcat and Billy Bob Ray. But that brings us nicely onto our GT3 class. And as we can see, overall GT3 winner, ladies and gentlemen. It's been some time since we've seen that name at the top, but it's Hekon Kristad who takes the win in the GT3 overall category, plus also the Pro with it for Eden Motorsport, ahead of Chris Constable for UK Sim Racing Mansell and Chris Curtin for Downforce Racing, who complete your GT3 overall podium and with it your GT3 Pro podium. Casper Rotner, P20 there, Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of Ryan Moles with Peter Cox and Daniel Pace, P22, P23, and then James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Hill, taking the GT3 AM win ahead of Noel Killing after their close fought battle in the closing stage of the race. The Mural.io driver just missing out in the end today, and we'll be going for it once again next round, there's no doubt about it. And then Adrian Kukulis separating them from the final podium finisher in the G3 AM class of Lawrence Marsh, P27, and the Downforce Racing driver with another podium to his name will continue his championship campaign on top form. Then we can see at P28, Jack Barker on his debut ahead of Mark Johnson, with Thomas Barshak completing top 30, and then Marvin Cruz ahead of Andy Skinner with Christopher Bates, Matt Edmondson, Simon Hartley, John Davies, and then Darren Sharples completing all our finishers of this race. And I do believe out of our 39 starters, in the end we did have 2 classified retirees of Rudy Avitsland and Satinder Dinsa, and unfortunately both of those drivers will be classified as non-finishers as they did not complete over half the race distance. But now coming on to the individual classes, we start with the GTP Pro category, and as we can see here, it is Effect Simulations 1, 2, 3 for Paul Busby, Andrew Dawson and Joshua G. Wilson. Congratulations to them in making a historical win today. Indeed, the way they've wanted it to happen, ahead of Cy Anthony, their best of the rest off of the podium, the privateer, 17 seconds clear of Sam Sherwood for ProTech Motorsport, and then Alexander Schooner McCallison outside the top 5. But still a good result there, only a second off of Sam Sherwood at the line, whilst in William Campbell and Alex Hill completing all of your lead lap finishers, and then Darren Norcat finishing a lap down for Racing Forces, an unfortunate way to end his race. Can on the GTP AM category, and as we can see here, Salvatore Guariento, your winner for Mural.io by 13.5 seconds out of a DY13 Racing's Ollie Pimley. And then what was in the end a further, if my maths is correct, a further 29 seconds back, David Rolliston there for Tiger Racing Team. But still a third place for the podium. Hard fought versus the Symphony Esports driver of David Lowerson. And then Aaron Beaver completing a top 5 there for UK Sim Racing Bell. Alden Hegerset at P6 Race Map Esports Moser ahead of the driver finished a lap down of Billy Bob Ray for Empire Motorsport. And then the sole retiree after 4 laps of racing, Rudy Avitsland there for RaceLab Esports KTM. That will be a huge hammer blow to his championship campaign. We then come to what is the GT3 category, starting with the GT3 Pro class. And as we can see here, Hekon Gristad, your winner by 29.2 seconds for Ignium Motorsport over UK Sim Racing Mansell's Chris Constable, with a further 7 seconds to Chris Kirtland in the battle of the Chris's, and the Downforce Racing driver not coming out on top today. Casper Rotner finishing just behind, off of the podium there for Old Dudes in Cars by a further 3 seconds, ahead of Ryan Moles, the ProTech Motorsport driver who fought hard in the Porsche to finish inside the top 5, and then Peter Conks, Daniel Pace and Adrian Kukudas completing all of your drives to finish on the lead lap, with Marvin Cruz a lap down for Old Dudes in Cars, and 4 laps down Darren Sharples, but classified as a finisher for UK Sim Racing Mansell. And then lastly come to the GT3 AM class. And as we can see here, James Connolly for UK Sim Racing Hill taking the win by 7.4 seconds at the end over Mural.io's Niall Killian, with Lawrence Marsh round off the podium there for Downforce Racing. And then the rest of the field finishing a lap down as classified, Jack Barker being the first of them, the privateer P4 ahead of Mark Johnson for UK Sim Racing Mansell, as Johnson continues to chase a podium finish. He's getting closer by the day, and Johnson definitely, I think, feeling as though today the pace is flying in that Porsche 992. Thomas Barjak P6 in his season best performance in the Rexy Mobile there, the privateer in the number 3. Great to see from him. Head of Andy Skinner, Christopher Bates, Matt Edmondson and Simon Hartley. And then John Davies finishing 3 laps down the end, but still finishing the race with the wrong stuff despite all the technical issues he's had from what I'm hearing. And great to see him out there giving it his all and finishing P11. And Satinder Dinsa, unfortunately for the Tiki Simsport Toa driver, that huge incident coming onto the Mulesland Straight earlier in the race, ending his race prematurely and seeing him classified as a non-finisher as he did not complete over half the race distance. Well, that concludes all of our racing here today at Le Mans, ladies and gentlemen, and what a race we have had. There's been no question about it. There's been drama, there's been surprises, and there's definitely also been history made across all 4 classes. But as we now take a brief breather, or get ready to do so in preparation for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers, we'd just like to take a moment to say, firstly, thank you for tuning into the racing today, and if you have been enjoying the racing and you want to support UK Sim Racing, well, there's 3 ways to do so. 2 of them you can do right now, if you so desire, and the first one is that you can follow us on Twitch. It's quick and easy to do and completely free of charge. Alternatively, if you want to, you're very welcome to subscribe to our Twitch channel, and there are some added benefits in doing so. And thirdly, and perhaps more relevant if you're in the world of sim racing, is that at UK Sim Racing, we are affiliated with a multitude of sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, which do include, but are not limited to, Swelly Omida Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere, and Doing Tweaks. And if you do head to our website, that website being uksimracing.co.uk today, as you'll see it very shortly on screen, and there it is in its full splendor. There is a page up there, or a link I should really say, which is to our Discord, and if you click on that, you'll be able to join the official UK Sim Racing Discord. And why would you want to do that? Well, there's 2 main reasons. Firstly, if you ever want to be on the grid for a UK Sim Racing event or series, you need to be part of our Discord. It is a mandatory requirement, so that way You're able to attend the pre-race driver briefings and you can go racing with us. But perhaps more relevant to today is the fact that a number of our affiliates provide discount codes which are only available on the official UK Sim Racing Discord. And if you use one of those codes as part of your purchase, well, you're in pole position to receive a discount on your purchase, which is a win for you, but it's also a win for the wider UK Sim Racing community because we're a non-profit organisation and every kickback that we make off an affiliate purchase, well, every penny we make out of it will go back into funding future series at UK Sim Racing, including multi-class leagues such as the GTP GT3 League that you're seeing this season, also the ongoing Porsche Cup, and plenty more we've got planned for the remainder of 2023 and onwards into 2024. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing, and well, don't go too far away, ladies and gentlemen, because we are going to be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews, and you definitely won't want to miss them. We'll see you shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and ready to kick off our post-round interviews. We apologise for a slight delay there. We did have a small technical hitch in the background that we just quickly resolved. We're going to be hearing from 4 drivers today, and we're going to start off and end up on the GT3 AM class. And I'm joined immediately here by Tiki Simsports' Andrew Skinner, known to friends as Andy. Good evening to you, Andy. It's great to have you here in the interview room. And what a race for yourself today. It looked tough out there at Le Mans, but starting P6 in class, finishing P7 in the end. But it looks like you just managed to about outlast the circuit that seems to be claiming many in the AM class today.
Yeah, I mean, my aim for the entire season is just to run my own race, not get involved in any other people's battles and just run my own race. Probably my strongest finish for a long time. I do like Le Mans, just like last week at Watkins. It is one of my stronger tracks. But yeah, there was a lot of chaos out there today.
Oh, most definitely. There was quite a few incidents, particularly early on the race. The GT3 AM class really dominating the instant list from the outset. And from your perspective going into this race, of course, Le Mans is widely considered to be one of those circuits whereby it is a huge test on both the car and the driver itself. You were saying moments ago that this was one of the ones you're looking forward to and feeling good for. But I have to ask, in terms of preparing for this one, did you take any different approaches given the intensity of Le Mans?
Still same approach for me is I just run as many laps as I can. I try to get into officials earlier in the week, but obviously work commitments pays tribute to that. But as I said, no difference in race prep. The only thing I would do differently here is try and find out where all the slowdowns are, because they can be quite tricky here and there's no off tracks as such. So knowing where your slowdowns are is actually quite useful. And then how do you react to when you get a slowdown, especially when you've got an entire field of GTs behind you?
Oh, most definitely, and something to be aware of. We did see a number of slowdowns play out, not just for yourself and your colleagues, but also for other classes. But now coming on to a little bit more specifics, let's talk a little bit about qualifying. P6 in the end in qualifying, P32 overall, and it was an exceptionally close qualifying session in that mid-pack in the GT3 AM class. How did you find qualifying?
I thought the third lap was the lap to be on. I'd been practicing qualifying mostly through the week, knowing that we've only got 15 minutes. And really, with the Mans being so long, there wasn't really any time to duck into the pits. It was either you go for 2 laps or you push for 3. And that third lap for me was probably one of the best laps I've done.
Indeed, it looked a very fast lap out there, given the times that we had come on in the end. And we just looked to the qualifying data from yourself, in the end only missing out on P5 in the class versus Matt Edmondson by the best part of 3.5 tenths. But again, at Le Mans with the length of the lap, 3.5 tenths is the equivalent of what would be a tenth at some of the other circuits. Were there perhaps some moments where you thought to yourself, you know what, I could have perhaps been a little bit higher if I just nailed that apex, or perhaps this corner or that sequence?
It's mainly braking areas for me. I tend to brake a little too early going into some of the corners, especially the chicane, because I know that's a killer for slowdowns. But yeah, for me, it's mainly braking zones and trying to hit the apexes as best as I can.
Oh, indeed. And speaking of nailing apexes, absolutely critical going into the race. And of course, we did see the different start procedure today of the single file start for the GT3 and the GTP class, but the GT3 is really adhering to that. There was no reforming of the double file coming out the final corner. And when we went green flag racing, immediately it looked as though you held in position for some time. And on lap number 2, when unfortunately your teammate Satinder Deensa ended up in that huge shunt going onto the Mulsanne, everything seemed to be shaken up.
Yeah, it was. I mean, trying to obviously see where the wreck was and just trying to take avoiding action was the best. Luckily, it was, as you said, on the Mulsanne straight, so there's plenty of room there to try and avoid the accident. I feel sorry. I mean, I do feel for Satinder, but as a teammate. But tonight, probably my best result of the year.
Oh, indeed, and crafting a great result along the way. And speaking of the race, as we went deeper into race, particularly after the opening 10 minutes, as we do look to some footage of Simon Hartley, your other teammate, having a spin coming out of Tetrarch on what was, I do believe, lap number 2 as well. So it all went very, very wrong for Tiki Simsport on that lap, but not for yourself. Did you stick to a particular strategy today, or did you have to change your strategy midway through the race?
I just stick to my strategy. I filled the car all the way up on fuel, ran to the tank came empty, and then just didn't change tyres, just fill her up and back out on track. Yeah, Tech Rouge is one of those corners where, as I've said it in practice this week, the Ferrari on the first 2 laps, the Ferrari does feel a very, very oversteery, but once you get all the temperatures up in the car, she's absolutely fine.
Well, speaking of fine form in the Ferrari, you definitely demonstrated that as the day went on in the racing here. And with regards to the Ferrari, was there any particular part of the circuit where you felt as though the Ferrari showed a lot of strength compared to its rivals? We know the Porsche very strong in the final half of the lap, but lacking on the straights. The Ferrari, meanwhile, seemed to be pretty much an all-rounder today.
Yeah, Ferrari is pretty much an all-rounder. Yeah, it loses time to the Porsches and the Porsche curves, but wherever it loses time in the Porsche curves, it makes up on the straights. It felt incredibly quick down the straights. I know on lap 3 where there's like a gaggle of 4 of us going down to Mulsanne, and I literally backed out to make sure it wasn't too wide going 2x2 into Mulsanne, because that's a nightmare.
Oh, indeed. And, well, with all those straights and potential nightmares ensuing as a result of it, you seem to stay out of trouble. And a good number of roles, such as Matt Edmondsson, for example, finishing behind you come the end of the race. But it looked as though, as well, he had a bit of a scrap with Thomas Barjuk towards the end, but the Rexy Mobile getting the upper hand.
Yeah, I mean, obviously traffic played its part. I got caught by Andy and Paul in the Porsche and Corvette curbs at quite awkward times. And knowing that I'm really not racing anybody, all I'm doing is running my race, I thought I'd let Tom go and try and save a little bit of fuel behind him.
Well, a smart approach there to focus on finishing your own race. And to be fair, in doing so, bringing home a 7th place, and as we double check your results, indeed, like you say, your best performance of the season, a great result to achieve at Le Mans as we go into the second half of the season as of next week. It moves you to P12 in the standings, and I have to ask, how do you feel your championship campaign has been thus far?
Yeah, it's been a good campaign. It's obviously my first season in the league. Indy was a bit of a learning curve. 3G not my best race, even by my standards. And then obviously the last 2 rounds, I've literally had my best race. What I feel were my best races.
That's absolutely fantastic to hear, and looking forward now to next week. We go straight into the second half of the season for a trip to Florida and the Sebring International Raceway. Do you feel as though it's upwards from here?
Sebring's one of the tracks I struggle with, but I definitely think it's going to be upwards from here towards the end of the season. I'm just going to keep running my race, keep improving. At the end of the day, I'm only concerned about my race. I don't want to get involved in any sort of scuffles.
Oh, indeed. And will you say it's upwards from here in the championship? And today it's upwards with regards to a personal note at Tiki Simsport, and particularly for yourself. We talked about early in the broadcast the fact that yourself and a number of your teammates are running special liveries in support of breast cancer awareness in October. And I believe it's uphill and onwards for a good friend of yours in the battle with breast cancer.
Yeah, no, a colleague at work's obviously she's had breast cancer since sort of the summer, and um, I felt with breast cancer awareness month coming up, not only am I wearing pink shirts to work to throw my support, I asked the guys if we could run a special one-off livery for September. I think Shaminder's running it for the full season, but don't quote me on that. And Lisa, if you are watching, I hope everything goes okay, and get better soon from all of us at John Lewis.
Well, at the same time, Andrew, I think everybody at UK Sim Racing can get behind the battle against breast cancer. We wish Lisa all the best in her continued fight. And it's so great to see a lovely livery being run on the car in honour of what is definitely a huge campaign against something that can affect many on a personal level. Indeed, many of us may know of other individuals who, close in our own life, may be suffering from breast cancer. But glad to hear you're supporting Lisa in that. And just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I just want to say thanks to all the guys at Tiki, helping me improve not only this season but last season as well. Obviously, didn't join the league last season. I just wanted to focus on getting better, and just thank you to John and the guys for putting their faith in me.
Indeed, it is faith well placed at Tiki Sim Sport, and I'm sure if Greg is listed right now as team principal, he'll be very proud of your performance today, Andy. But with that, congratulations once again on 7th place in the GT3 AM class. Say your season best performance, and well, fingers crossed for you. It's only up from here into the second half of the season. We look forward to plenty more from yourself. But until then, well done once again, and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thank you, Paul, and you have a good evening too.
So hearing there from Andrew Skinner in the GT3 AM class from Tiki Sim Sport, and great to hear from him, and talking there about his perspective going into today, and Le Mans being one of the circuits he really enjoys and was looking forward to, and with a run of performances thus far this season that have been touching on the bottom end of the top 10, for him to qualify P6 and finish P7, and talking out all the way through staying out of trouble, not getting involved in any major scuffles or battles. And I think really for Skinner, it's been one about where he's continued to learn. And as he said, he didn't take part in the previous GT3 League season because of the fact trying to put the practice and the time behind him, but running in this season and running well. And sometimes all you need to do is finish the race. Indeed, everyone has to finish the race to get points, but really Andy defining that in the fact that showing that staying out of trouble, he's not going to be getting the huge point hauls, but he's getting those consistently improving results. And the P7 today have been absolutely fantastic to that. And whilst many in the GT3 AM class end up in an instant or two, not for Andrew Skinner, and definitely one to watch out for as we go into the second half of the season. And could we see him achieve a top 5 or 2, perhaps even a podium before all is said and done? Well, I'd like to put my money behind that, because I definitely think he's due for a top 5 sooner rather than later. But as we now come on to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard from Andrew Skinner from Tiki Sim Sport, but now we're going to come to our GTP AM winner, and that is going to be none other than Salvatore Guariento, who gets ready to join me in the interview room, and we're going to be hearing the perspective from the driver today, who really has made history in becoming the first Porsche 963 winner in the GTP AM class. And as he joins me now, good evening to you, Salvatore, and what a performance for yourself today. They said a Porsche 963 would never win in this season, but you've done it, and you've done it in style at Le Mans, the track which eluded Porsche in real life earlier this year.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, very, very happy. It's been a bit of a struggle to the start of the season. Obviously, didn't have a great result at Spa, where I felt like I was, at good pace, and Watkins Glen, not really my favorite track. But then coming here, a track where I've done a lot of racing, and just really happy. Pace was really, really good. I was surprised to be able to keep up with some of the Cadillacs, as you've obviously heard a lot of people have been talking about the Cadillac being super fast here. But yeah, very happy with that.
Oh, indeed. And let's break it down into a couple of parts here, starting with qualifying a P5 overall, which is a huge statement in of itself, given the number of Cadillacs and Acuras on the field, and then taking that pole position in the class, and not by any small margin either, as we just double check our data sheets here, taking that pole position in the end with what was, I do believe, as we just get on our numbers correct there, by a margin of 1.1 seconds with 323.330. I mean, I have to ask, what was the secret to that lap? Because that is sensational.
To be honest, it wasn't even a good lap. I lost like 3.5 tenths in the last 3 chicanes on what I did before. So when I crossed the line, I was slightly disappointed with what I did. But the rest of the lap was really good. It's just obviously with the format, it's a bit hard to get the right time to get a lap in. But I felt like this time around, the first lap I was like a second and a half behind someone else, and I felt like that was a bit too close, a bit of understeer. Second lap was clean air, which is just really good. You can really push this car when it's on super low fuel. I even crossed the line, but I think 0.1 fuel left, so couldn't be more perfect in that sense.
Oh, 100%. I would agree with you on that. You couldn't have timed it to more perfection in terms of the amount of fuel you used with regards to that qualifying session. And whilst it may not have been the perfect lap, like you say, translating from pole position then into the race itself, we did see the field have to run quite a way before it went green flag racing. I have to ask, where did you find yourself in all of that? Because it looked as though everyone was set to go race and the field actually spread back out into two columns, and in Sunny, it's go, go, go.
So I wasn't really aware that we were only going when we crossed the line itself. I thought when out of the last corner, they might just go. So I almost rear-ended the guy in front of me. So that was a bit sketchy. It's weird going onto the straight, only doing like 50 miles an hour. But then, yeah, just trying to be awake when they go. Because you're so close on the car in front of you, it's hard to get timing right. Um, yeah, that was definitely interesting.
Indeed, and speaking of other interesting aspects, we saw early on in the race that as you broke away from your GTP and rivals, you weren't afraid of mixing things up with some of the GTP pros, and some names coming to mind such as Darryl Norquette, as we look at some of the pictures here of you being chased by Norquette, but also I believe Cy Anstey, Sam Sherwood, just to name three of them. It looks like you're enjoying yourself out there.
Yeah, definitely. I do think there's a little bit, a difference in the way people tend to race you when they're pro or am. I definitely felt like the pro guys, they try to be a little bit more aggressive around me, which is obviously understandable. But I was like, I'm also trying here to show what I can do. So it's for a position overall, so I'm still going to fight for it.
Oh, understandable. And well, speaking of that, of course, fighting for it, were there any place on the circuit where you felt as though you could perhaps put up a stronger defense or go on the offense?
Well, I know this sounds very surprising, but the Porsche actually has the highest top speed compared to the Cadillac. So on the straight, if they pulled out of the slipstream, it felt good because I knew that they couldn't pull alongside unless they had like a really good run and were using attack on the ERS. So I definitely felt like that one of my stronger points, especially with Norquette behind me. Felt like he was really struggling on the straight to put like a move together into the chicanes. It was only in the slower corners that he really caught up. That was where I was struggling the most. But yeah, out of the corners and on the straights, it was pretty comfortable.
Well, you made it look smooth with regards to the car, like you say, racing in comfort. And with regards to strategy, we did see a mass exodus of cars, yourself included, to the pits around what was the 35-minute mark. Was that all in the plan? Was there any attempt to try and make yourself go one lap longer on the opening stint? Just take us through your strategy.
So at the start of the race, I was thinking about saving the fuel to get the extra lap. And then during the race, I noticed that I had a couple moments with lockups, so I wasn't really sure if the tires were still holding up correctly. And a couple times in the Porsche curves, the back end tried to get a little bit loose. So I decided to just swap tires at the pit stop and just push with the rest of the fuel that I had. And I don't think it really lost me that much. Being able to push faster after my pit stop, I think made up for what I would have maybe gained by feeling less and going for the extra lap. I know people around me tried to save fuel, but in the end, I still finished around them. So I feel like pushing as fast as you can uh, was definitely for me the play here. It would have definitely been faster for me than trying to save fuel. I don't think I would have been able to be where I am, where I was right now.
Well, indeed, I would agree with you on that. It looked as though by going for a bit more aggressive approach and strategy, it worked out a treat for yourself and led to you finishing at P5. And I have to ask, coming towards the end of the race, the lap's ticking down, and then you come out the final corner, you're not going to just become another member of the GTP AM winning family. It will have a limited set of names, but also you're going to be the first driver to take a win in the Porsche 963. It must have been a special feeling.
Yes, definitely. Especially coming into this season here, I've all the races I've done so far, I've only seen me being the only one in the Porsche. So you start to think to yourself, did I make the wrong choice? Did I pick the wrong car? But yeah, I just really like it. It looks good. It drives fun, and when you get a good combination with a track, it's also pretty fast. So yeah, I'm very happy to show everyone that it's just not just the Cadillac stealing the show.
Oh, indeed, if anything, I think you've stolen the show today. Definitely the spotlight from everybody else. And now I have to ask, first half of the season, like you were saying earlier, some difficulty at Spa. It didn't quite work out. Watkins Glen, also a bit of an uphill battle there. But you're finally taking your first win of the season. 5 more rounds to go. Is it all up from here?
Yeah, definitely. The calendar, the tracks coming up, just couldn't be a more perfect calendar. I would say they're all incredible tracks. I really enjoy driving most of them as well. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna show what I can do, how fast I can be, and yeah, hopefully it won't be the only one as long as I stay in M class.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing all of that being shown to us from yourself. And it all starts with Sebring in a week's time. How are you feeling for the Florida circuit?
It's very bumpy. This is we go from I would say fairly smooth track here compared to a very bumpy track. So it's definitely going to be a lot of practice. But I feel like the strength of the car, a lot of I would say straights to help. I think they can play really into my hand, and yeah, just see where we go from there, and hopefully get another very good result.
Well, we'd definitely love to see the Rothmans Porsche from Euro.io back up there on the top step next week, and we look forward to seeing whether you can make that a reality. But just before we do let you go, Salvatore, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yes, I would really like to thank my teammate in the GT3 class, Neil Killen. He's been doing really well. Obviously, also had a really unfortunate start last week, but I'm also looking forward for him to show what he can do. And he took a good result today as well, so I'm very happy with that. And yeah, all the best to him as well for the rest of the season.
We definitely look forward to seeing both yourself and Noel continue to charge forward as a team in the remainder of this season. But until then, Salvatore, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations once again on becoming the winner of today in the GTP AM class and the first driver to claim a win in the lonely but absolutely thriving Porsche 963. We hope to see more from you in the weeks to come. But until then, thank you for joining me in the interview and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
So hearing there from Salvatore Guariento, the GTP AM winner today from Euro.io, and we're being very honest with regards to his qualifying lap and saying it wasn't the best lap he felt he could have delivered, losing at multiple attempts over the course of lap in qualifying, but still to take pole position by 1.1 seconds. Well, I think some magic was due to happen here today from that qualifying session, and he made magic happen in the race. Enjoying the fighting as well with the likes of Sam Sherwood, as we see on the pictures here, and also Darren Norquette behind, and fighting for that P5 overall just as much as also continuing that pace to take the winning class and really putting the Porsche 963 on the map. And it's true, this season has been dominated by the presence of the Cadillacs and also the Acuras, but we have seen a couple of BMWs out there, but only one lone Porsche on the grid since the last couple of rounds, I should say. And well, the number 210, Salvatore Guariento, flying the banner higher for the German manufacturer and bringing it on home today in a faultless race, and feeling as though the remainder of this season is going to favour the Porsche. Now that is a statement, and one we'd love to see be made a reality here, because right now Guariento may be down on points significantly compared to where he perhaps expected to be after the difficulties of Spa, and Watkins Glen also been quite the uphill battle. But well, on the American territory once again next week, can he pull off a surprise or perhaps even make it 2 wins out of 2? We'll have to wait and see. But as we now come on to our next interview, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to double the door number from 210 to 420, and we're going to have none other than Paul Busby himself join us in the interview room from the GTP Pro class, and we're going to be hearing from our GTP Pro winner in what was a tooth-and-nail battle with teammate Andrew Dawson from lights out to checkered flag, with the two of them running nose to tail for the best part of all 60 minutes. But as he joins us well, we'll hear words on him with regards to effect simulations picking up a 1-2-3 today. Without further ado, we bring him in to the interview room now, and here he joins me. It is none other than Paul Busby himself. Paul, it's great to have you join me once again, and also for you to become the first repeat winner in the GTP Pro class. We've had 4 winners in 4 rounds, and now you become the first repeat winner. I mean, what a way to do it, and pushed all the way by your teammate Andrew Dawson in a great night for effect simulations.
Hiya, Paul. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was a really fun race. Me and Andy have been racing together all weekend. So yeah, was pushing each other the whole way. Hope to try and keep it a bit entertaining for you guys. And yeah, brought home a 1-2-3 for the team. So absolutely buzzing with that. Couldn't really have gone much better, really.
Oh, most definitely. And well, it all started today with a 1-2-3 in qualifying, albeit you were at the bottom end of the trio, with Dawson delivering what was an absolutely sensational pole lap, and then Wilson, Josh, fitting himself into the middle, and then yourself third place. But the three of you very far apart from the rest of the field by the looks of things. And just take us through from your perspective how qualifying played out. Was the anticipation down the paddock that it was going to be a 1-2-3, or was it a bit of surprise?
To be honest, I choked the last chicane. I think I would have probably just about nicked pole. I lost about, I think it was about 1.7, 1.8 seconds in the last part of the full chicane because I lost the rear a little bit. And I deliberately fueled so that I could only do one flying lap. I wasn't going to make it back to the pits because I've just been doing one-shot qualies a week. And yeah, so that was my one and done, really. I was quite happy to end up only third rather than a bit further down the grid, but we felt pretty confident beforehand. I mean, me and Andy won the 6 hour yesterday. I won the Apex League race on Friday as well at Le Mans. So yeah, it's been a good week all round for the team, and just needed to go out and show what we could do today, and we made it stick.
Oh, most definitely. And just on that point in qualifying, of course, it was a big talking point going into tonight about qualifying strategy. But you're saying about taking the one-shot approach rather than multiple laps on a full tank of fuel, which other drivers did. Just take us through the benefits and disadvantages. Obviously, there's the obvious disadvantage, which is if you mess up the lap, it's game over, and that's qualifying done. But just the fact that you're spending a lot of time out there really warming the car up for that one lap, does it just put the car in a better place, I have to ask, compared to doing multiple successive laps?
Yeah, so for me, I did a bit of testing during the week, and to put the extra lap of fuel in, I meant I had to raise the nose of the car, and for me, it just didn't feel as quick, so I couldn't really get the setup dialed in to how I wanted it. And like I say, I've been doing one-shot qualifying all week. I did it on Friday as well in ARL, and I feel quite confident in doing one-shot qualies that I can nail my lap. Just in this instance, I carried a little bit too much speed when, to be honest, I don't think I needed to. But yeah, made a mistake and paid the penalty for it, but it wasn't too bad in the end.
Still, mistakes in qualifying didn't quite translate into how the race would play out, and after a bit of an interesting start where it looked as though your teammate Andy really delayed things all the way out to the start-finish line, which he was legally allowed to do so, given the start zone that was given to everybody today. We then saw yourself and Andy run away with proceedings very early on. It was almost as if Josh had been told, you know, you could be the rear guard, we've got a race to play up front.
To be fair to Joshy, he's only just learned Le Mans, so for him to finish P3 was actually a really, really good result for him. Really happy with his performance. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to keep up with me and Andy, just from the racing that we've done throughout the week, really. So he was more than happy just to let me go into turn one. So thank you to Joshy for that and not making it difficult. And we managed to pull it off without barbecuing each other. So it was, yeah, good result.
Oh, definitely. And then going into the back and forth battle between yourself and Andrew all the way through nose to tail, changing places. I imagine there was a bit of tactical fuel saving between the two of you, but when it came into the second stint, the two of you still separated by only 3 attempts, if that. Then it started to turn from working together to who's going to be the winner of this race.
Yeah, so like I say before, me and Andy are teammates. We do a lot of the endurances together. So we always like to get one over on each other. And we didn't want to just make it a procession. We thought we'd try and give you guys some entertainment and do some side by side stuff into some of the some of the fast corners. The side by side into Indy was pretty tasty. But yeah, no, it's good fun. Me and Andy had some fun with it and sort of showed what we could do. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it as well.
I think definitely many did enjoy it. See the two of you going side by side. I can definitely say the same here in terms of enjoying it as well. And then going into the very end, of course, coming to the line, checker flag awaits you, and you become the first repeat winner of the GTP Pro class. I mean, it must be a great feeling, and it's perhaps something you've been chasing for some time now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I've been a bit unlucky with some of the results I've had so far this season. Had a couple of incidents with some GT3s and not really maximised the points that I could have got. So just got to keep it up now and try and get all the results towards the end of the season and hopefully take the championship. That's the aim.
Well, speaking of taking the championship, this win today does move you now provisionally only 3 points off the top step, which is occupied by Cy Anthony. The momentum continues to gradually swing your way on the way of effect simulations. And of course, we've got 5 more rounds to come. How are you feeling at this point in the championship?
Yeah, I feel good, mate. I've got obviously we've got Sebring next week. Sebring's one of my stronger tracks, so I'm looking forward to getting my teeth into that with GTP because I've always been an LMP2 guy before this, so it'll be my first time actually going around Sebring in a hypercar rather. So yeah, got some learning to do this next week, but looking forward to getting my teeth into it. And then the other rounds are obviously great tracks as well. We've got a really good schedule this season, so yeah, just looking forward to getting out there and showing what we can do.
Oh, we definitely look forward to seeing what you and your teammates are able to do. And just a quick word on the 1-2-3 for effect simulations. I don't think we've ever seen it happen in a UK Simray series. We've had 1-2s, but not a full podium lockout. I mean, it's a special achievement in its own right.
Yeah, really proud of it. Definitely, it's not easy to all finish top 3. So yeah, happy with the result and happy that we're the first ones to do it. Put the name on the wall, that sort of thing. And yeah, hopefully we can do it again.
We'd definitely love to see it happen again at some point this season, but of course it's a very high standard that needs to be maintained. And of course you've mentioned that looking forward to Sebring in a week's time. So with all that practice due to come, and just before we do let you go, Paul, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to come today's broadcast?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Tim Morley, owner of Effect Simulations. Go and check out our website, effectsimulations.com, for some beautiful carbon fibre rigs. And then all my teammates, Joshy, Andy, Ben, who couldn't be here this week because he's out for his missus' birthday. And yeah, all the rest of the team as well. Everyone's pushing really hard at the moment, trying to kind of do well in all the competitions that we're in and all the endurance series on iRacing. And yeah, just trying to push the Effect name forward so we can start mixing with the big boys and getting our name out there a bit more.
Well, definitely today, you guys proved that you're the big boys on the grid. There's no doubt about that. And I think many watching it will feel as though now you've set yourself up as perhaps one of the favourites of the GTP Pro class this season, and Effect Simulations as the favourite in the team's championship, or the grand favourites. But Paul, with that, we wish you all the best in your preparations for Sebring as of next week. And until then, thank you for joining me in the interview room, and congratulations once again to you and the team. Firstly to yourself for becoming our first repeat winner in the GTP Pro class, and for the team in making history today by making it a 1-2-3 for Effect Simulations.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Cheers for the broadcast. Great as always. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
So hearing that there from Paul Busby from Effect Simulations, the GTP Pro driver, absolutely delivering today and gambling it all on a single lap in qualifying. It wasn't to quite work out the way he wanted it to be, and being transparent in the fact he lost a lot of time through 1 or 2 mistakes in the qualifying lap, but also interesting the perspective there in being able to run a car that was much more aggressive in its stancing by taking less fuel in the car, and therefore that's one of the reasons why some drivers opted to go for that single lap and use every other lap as a warm-up lap, if you will, but still going through qualifying. Qualifying just really determined the place on the grid, and then getting a good launch off the line in P3, moving into P2 come the end of the first couple of corners, working with teammate Joshua Wilson to negotiate the difference between the two, and then again, nothing can be taken from Josh in the fact, having just recently learned Le Mans to finish P3 and still stay one step ahead of the rest of the field. That is a huge achievement in itself, and I do believe he might be watching the broadcast back already. So Josh, if you're there, well done to yourself as well in becoming a key part of that 1-2-3 component today, and a great effort. But coming up back to Paul and Andy in particular, as we see them both battling on screen here, running nose to tail for the entirety of the race, and in the end, all the effect simulations pair both demonstrating their nuance, but it was Paul Busby who would be the one who to take the win, and would become our second winner. And right now, growing confidence, and definitely one of the favourites on the grid. And well, if he carries this on at Sebring in a week's time, there's no reason why he could not suddenly become your championship leader in the GTP Pro class. But now coming on to our fourth and final interview for today, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard from a GT3 AM driver, you heard from a GTP AM, you've heard just now from a GTP Pro driver. So let's go full circle and come back to a GT3 AM driver. And it's going to be none other than debutant tonight of Jack Barker, as he gets ready to join me in the interview room. And the privateer going into tonight with no expectations, enjoying a solid race. And as he joins me now in the interview room, good evening to you, Jack. And well, for somebody who came into today not expecting too much, and in the lonely Audi R8 LMS to finish P4, having started P5 in the GT3 AM class, I mean, how do you feel about it?
Good evening, Paul. Good evening, Paul. Oh, today's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. Yeah, no, it's just to talk on those points you mentioned there. I mean, yeah. I mean, what, entering the series, having not been able to do any pace testing beside any of the guys. So I just had to make the assumption that'd be the worst, and yeah, then you can only get positive from there.
Oh, most definitely. And coming into this round, Le Mans, of course, not being the easiest circuit to make your debut, you happen to choose perhaps one of the hardest circuits on the calendar, and also a car which has a reputation for being very fast with its V10 engine, but also quite nifty in the corners. How did qualifying feel for yourself? Because to take P5 in the GT3 AM class in qualifying, when we consider the fact that the positions in the end being separated in qualifying were between yourself and Lawrence Marsh by a whole second, but then behind you, Matt Edmondson and Andy Skinner only being 4 tenths off of you collectively. I mean, you put yourself right in the midfield, and it was a close class.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll actually take P5 on the grid. So, given how I was looking to come into the event, but it's just a bit of pain because I was doing a quali sim just before the race the session started. I don't know what the differences were in like the conditions or whatever, but I did like a 57.9. So I was a bit disappointed to be off that, and even like in the practice session, on like half a tank, I managed I think 59 or 58 or something like that. So yeah, like whilst the time wasn't there, the position was definitely something to look forward to for me.
Oh, indeed, and with the position you were able to take in qualifying going into the race, we did see the GT3 class start off in single line formation, and you found yourself starting midway through the forward chicanes, if my memory serves me correctly, or at least going into them, so that it was a bit of a slow start for the whole field. But come lap number 2, there was a lot of drama coming out of Tetra Rouge, and you managed to find your way past all of it, and then further drama down in one of the Moles End chicanes.
Oh yeah. It's been. I mean, on the start, I will admit, I was a bit confused because it's a big class. I've got what, I don't know how many cars I had in front of me, but I think like 14 cars in front of me. So there was a fair deal of sort of concertina rings. So I wasn't exactly sure when we set off. So I think I lost some time there just by holding back a bit because I wasn't fully aware we'd gone. But yeah, lap 2, the coming out Tetra Rouge, saw big pile of smoke in front of me. Thought, right, time to hit the anchors. And I slowed right down. No getting my way through there carefully. I mean, I lost a position in the process, but I also gained 2 at least. So, yeah. Yeah, just hit the brakes, get through there safely. We'll lost a whole lot more time had I got involved in it as afters.
Oh, most definitely. It's better to be safe than sorry, as they say. And in that approach, in the end, the places that you lost, you gradually started to gain. And as the race went on, we did see, in a battle for what was P4 effective, a growing threat of Mark Johnson before the pit stops came up. And then you came into the pits just as I think Mark was about to be within range to attack you on what would have been his pitting lap. Did his growing presence force you to come into the pits, or was it just the Audi started to run out of fuel?
Well, I mean, I'd always been planning to sort of half and half, and I think that sort of time, so I think it was Mark came in came in the lap earlier, so I was there with him. He was been behind me. So yeah, no, that's about my lap though. Yeah, fuel definitely was a factor. Um, yeah, that V10 in the Audi really drinks. It it drinks by the keg. So I think I accidentally started overfueled. So I think if I'd um if I'd started with the correct amount of fuel and then put the correct amount of fuel in, which I'll get to in a moment, I think we're in a total of like 16 gallons, which like 80 liters almost, which was a lot more compared to everyone else. So much more, in fact, I can literally get away with a free tyre change and not have to worry about the tyres. That it even means slightly bad.
And just on that, because that's interesting, the fact by taking the extra fuel in the picture, essentially you managed to force yourself into an additional tyre change. This Audi has a reputation for being quite sensitive to tyre degradation. Did the tyre change give you a lot more confidence to attack in the second half of the race?
I know, 'cause I mean, the car didn't really feel there at all, really, for the entire race. Like my pace was way off my pace was off what I expected. I mean, I was running at 402s. I was expecting more sort of four flats, maybe even the odd 359. Yeah, no, definitely. Towards the end of my first stint, I could start to feel the fronts going off. So you know, the front's more so than the rears actually, which I was actually quite thankful for because I know what that car's like when the rears aren't there. Oh, that's not a fun time at all. Yeah, front's going more, and I stand by my decision to change them.
Well, it seemed to be the right decision because for the remaining portion of the race in that second stint, it looked as though it was quite a quiet race for yourself. Not too much happening around, but still, as we came towards the final laps, a P4 definitely looked to be in the cards. And I have to ask, was it sinking in at any point that you were going to be finishing one step off the podium in what might have been a bit of a surprise result?
Well, I mean, coming out of qualifying, I was always surprised. So, yeah, you know, already way above my expectations, and then sort of as the race gone on, I was in P4. But yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Then I had Mark and I can't remember the driver's name. Sorry, but could behind me. Dropped to fifth for a bit. Was running fifth for quite a lot of the second stint actually. But then it seems though, which I'll get into now. I think it was. Sorry, find his name. Apologies. No, how new I'm to this. It was. I don't know. I know. Sorry, but yeah, the guy behind me. I think had the same issue. Had the same issue with the pit stop as I did. In that, so I used the in-game auto fuel, and yeah, it didn't give me enough fuel. I was like about half a gallon short, like half a gallon short making the end. So I had to really back it off in the last few laps, which I was kind of sad about. So I thought, oh no, I'm going with fifth. I'm with fifth. But then, yeah, and the guy had the exact same issue that I did, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, so he lost a bunch of time by pitting and ended up finishing fifth and let me be fourth. Yeah, was also looking out behind me to see where Paul and Andrew were in the GTPs coming behind me. So I was right on the barrier between being lapped again and not being lapped. Yeah, ended up being lapped in the end, which thankfully allowed me to finish in 4th. Otherwise, it would have been a bit dicey trying to do that last lap on sort of like 75% of a tank.
Oh, most definitely. I think grateful there for the leaders coming on through, just giving you a chance to finish the race and finish it well in 4th place. And interested there that yourself and while the other drivers in the field have been affected by what was the difference in fueling and the auto fuel. Perhaps not getting things exactly right, but still a 4th place is a 4th place at the end of the day, and you've taken it very well with both arms wide open. And of course, a great way to start off your debut in the season. And in a week's time, we make our way to the US of A for the Sebring International Raceway. How are you feeling for a visit to Florida?
It's all right. I mean, I've done it once before. Not a favourite, but I can do it.
Well, absolutely fair play, and we look forward to seeing how you get on there and whether you can carry on this trend that you've started already for yourself, which is exceeding your own expectations. But just before we do let you go, Jack, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I mean, firstly, I'd like to give a shout out to you, Paul, for doing this broadcast. Cause I'm sure it's up to your amazing quality as always. And also, thanks to the UKSR guys for being so organised as to allow me to work my way up the reserve list to eventually be in this series proper. Yeah, I think that's it. Might be wrong, but I can't remember.
Well, if you do remember it in the meantime, I'm sure we'll catch you again before the season is done. But with that, Jack, it's been an absolute blast to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on a 4th place finish in the GT3 AM class on your debut. Long may it continue when we go to Sebring in a week's time. But until then, have a great rest of your evening. And thank you once again for joining me in the interview room.
You too, Paul. See ya.
So hearing that there from Jack Barker, the privateer today in the 163 Audi. It may be a little bit lonely, the old German mark, but I can tell you one thing, the 4 rings shone high in the former Barker today. And all interesting to hear his perspective then, the fact that it just seemed as though the whole car didn't quite feel the way he expected it to, whether it was in qualifying or in race trim, with the pace being approximately 1.5 to 2 seconds off over the whole. And in the end, really just having to go with the flow of the car. And by staying out of trouble in the opening couple of laps, yes, he lost some places, but he gained them back by staying clear of a number of drivers ended up in misfortune early on. Of course, we had the unfortunate incident for Satinder Dienser, perhaps one of the biggest ones out there, but also later on the almost near spin for Matt Edmondson. But in return, Barker just keeping his head down, pushing on, and when he realised the fuel issue after the auto fuel hadn't quite given the fuel required, and I think that might have been due to the fact we did see quite a few laps put on top by our GTP leaders, but still Barker able to manage the situation, manage the fuel, picked up a further place from other drivers struggling with the fuel, and bringing the car home in 4th place. And well, those are the building blocks that you need for a good championship campaign. And can he carry it on at Sebring? I think he's not too focused on Sebring in terms of the fact it's not a circuit he expects to perhaps necessarily go too well at, but still, if he starts off well at Le Mans, he can continue in a week's time, and we look forward to seeing how his story continues. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And we'd like to say thank you once again to all 4 of our interviews for joining us, starting with Andrew Skinner for Tiki Simsport in the GT3 AM class. We then heard from our GTP AM winner of Salvatore Guariento for Mural.io, I should say. And then thirdly from Paul Busby for Effect Simulations for GTP Pro, and our winner today and the tip of the spear in the Effect Simulations 1, 2, 3. And lastly, you've just heard from Jack Barker, the privateer, the GT3 AM P4 finisher. Congratulations to all 4 of our drivers for their fantastic performances, and thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to turn our attentions to the updated provisional standings after 5 rounds of racing. We start off then with the GTP Pro category, and as we can see here at the top, the gap is getting smaller. It is Cy Anthony who still leads the way, albeit by only 3 points. Albeit we should say that Ben Cullen not being on the grid today has seen him actually lose the lead over Cy Anthony by a single point, but it is Anthony who now continues to stay within that top 2 but returns to the top, and Paul Busby fits himself right into the middle between Anthony and Cullen. It looks like Effect Simulations are building the foundations here for a potential 1-2 in the championship when all is said and done, but it's only 5 points between the top 4, given the fact it'd be rude of us not to consider Austin William Campbell, the Symphony Esports driver. They're holding on to P4 currently, only in P4 based on result countback. Alex Hill, meanwhile, a further 2 points behind the TG Simsport Corporate driver, continues to show that consistency is key if he wants to do well in the championship. And whilst he perhaps was not stealing any headlines today, again, another solid performance seeing him hold on to P5, ahead of fellow sister teammate TG Simsport's Ryan Davies, who wasn't on the grid today and will use this round as a drop score. Joshua G. Wilson for Effect Simulations, P7 there, and his runner form continues to take an upward trend as picking up that third place today moves him into P7, only ahead of Alexander Sharino Mikkelsen, currently based on result countback, and then we can see Sam Sherwood and Darren Orkett completing your top 10. Behind the Racing Forces driver, best there is P11, Jonathan Hitchin for Simflet, who using this round a 0-0 today. That'll be his second drop score for the season. We look forward to plenty more from the BMW driver as the next round, as we do for Joe Newman for Empire Motorsport. And as we see on his debut, Andy Dawson already picking up 39 points there for the pole lap, plus second place. The Effect Simulations Club Sport driver moving up the order rapidly, ahead of Alistair Kirk and Matt Strand to complete your championship standings. We then come on to what is the GTP AM class, and here we can see the complexion is quite similar in the fact that we have a leader who is a little bit ahead, but not too much, and it's Rob Armstrong for UK Sim Racing Bell, not in attendance today and therefore picking up 0 points, but at the same time that becomes his first drop score of the season, and I don't think he'll mind it too much. David Rolliston, meanwhile, P2 for Tiger Racing Team, continues to try and chase down Armstrong, but only has a 1 point advantage over Billy Bob Ray, who despite the difficulties and the instant midway through the racing, the Empire Motorsport driver holds on to P3 and has a 9 point advantage over Aaron Beaver. The UK Sim Racing at Bell driver there, ahead of Salvatore Guariento right now, but the Miro.io driver with his first win of the season and a perfect score from today, well, he'll be hoping that that could continue, because right now he is closing the gap on the top 4 very rapidly indeed. And then we have David Larson at P6 there, the Symphony Esports driver in the battle of the two Davids. He already has 2 drop scores to his name effectively, only 1 is accounted for currently, so he's the one you need to watch out for as the season goes on, because I reckon he could leap his way back up towards the top 3, if not the lead, as we come towards the closing stages. Rudy Witzland, Organ Hegeseter, the 2 Racing Lab Esports drivers there, P7 and P8 for K-Tim and Moser respectively, and both looking to try and build on their form, with Hegeseter in particular having a great run today, albeit a quiet run, but still those 30 points there will do him great justice in moving up the order. And then we can see it, Brandon Hay and John Doe will complete your top 10 there, and will right now only 13 points between the two of them. Ollie Pimley for DY13 Racing on his debut and moves into P11, best the rest, ahead of Richard Jones, with Paul Joseph Cliss and James Foster yet to score any points. We then come onto the GT3 Pro standings, and as we can see here in the GT3 Pro category, Herodas Jatatas not in attendance today. This becomes his first drop score of the season, but holds his continued advantage of 147 points, 12 clear of Ignium Motorsports Hekon Gustad. The over limit racing driver, be wary of Gustad, who's finally taken his first win of the season, and Gustad I think will be feeling as though the confidence is coming his way, but you've got to keep in mind as well, whilst he does have an 11 point advantage over Adrian Kukulas, the short competition esports driver ahead of teammate Aaron Vergalway, we do have a number of drivers who've missed certain rounds, and therefore their drop scores are starting to shape up and take effect. That means that there's going to be quite a bit of shuffling in the stands, and Ryan Moulds finds himself right in the centre of the shuffling. P5 there for ProTech Motorsport, only ahead of Peter Cox based on result countback, with the UK Sim Racing Hill drive being flooded up by Casper Brotner there in at P7. Behind the old dudes in cars driver is Eric Rosa for Racing Lab Esports KTM, who now has his second drop score recorded effectively, and again we can expect the number 1 driver to launch his way back up the standings as this season goes into its second half. But also Chris Curtin there for Downforce Racing, a 3rd place today, doing him great form as he carries on his momentum and builds upon what was a difficult start to the season, and Marvin Cruz for Old Dudes in Cars completes your top 10. Best of the rest, P11 is Darren Sharples, ahead of his UK Sim Racing Mansell teammate Chris Constable, and credit to Chris Constable where it's due at a 2nd place today, definitely keeping his form back on the run, with Josh Pratt, Daniel Pays and Thomas Aspau running through to P15, and then to complete the top 20, it's Anders Meyer ahead of Rhys Saunders, with Kerry Kokoram, John Watt and Martin Tilling completing the top 20, and behind the Tiki Simsport Toa driver is John Maloney for Multiclass Racing, P21, who haven't seen since the start of the season. We'll then come to the GT3 AM class, last but not least when it comes to Drivers' Championships. And here we can see Lawrence Marsh leads the way by 14 points over Matt Edmondson. But again, we have to keep in mind here that Marsh leads away with a number of drivers who have got drop scores starting to fit into the jigsaw puzzle. But credits where it's due to the Downforce Racing driver. He really has been Mr. Consistent out of them all. Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill, a difficult day today, but it will become his first drop score for UK Sim Racing Hill. And he'll be looking to try and find a revival in form after what was a great opening couple of rounds, and Mark Johnson for UK Sim Racing Mansell. How the tables are turning in favour of the 44 driver, moving into P3 for the first time this season, ahead of Thomas Barger, the Rexy Machine driver, now down to P4 on 118 points, but again showing consistency and top 5 to top 10 finishes are key if you want a good campaign, and he's 2 points clear of Jim Conley, or James Conley, as he's 9 in full, and the UK Sim Race the Hill driver with the win, moving into P5 by a single point over Mark Collicott. Collicott absent today, and he now has 2 drop scores in effect already, and the AI Race Summaries DCW Racing driver is the one that we are keeping our eyes on, because we can expect when the second drop score is accounted for towards the end of the season, Collicott could launch his way right back up into the battle with Lawrence Marsh. However, John Davies, P7 there for the wrong stuff. Whilst he may not have had a great day today with the technical issues he encountered, he still had a great run of results so far, and that's why he's P7 there on great merit. Head of Nicholas Rice, the Dirty Rice Racing driver, missing out today, but tuning in, and great to have him tuning in, and we look forward to plenty more for the 32 driver as the next round. And then we come to Satinder Deensa, the TE Sim Sport Tower driver, where it all went wrong in the space of 2 laps after what was a great battle for pole position. Didn't quite get the pole, and in the end, that early retirement cost him extremely dear, and right now it becomes another drop score, and it may not be the score he expected to drop, but can the BMW M4 GT3 driver find a way back into the hunt? Behind him, Steinar Sani by a single point there. For Racing Lab Esports Car X, head of Cy Hartley, who's best the rest of TQ Sim Sport Tower, and then to complete the top 15, Andy Skinner, Noel Killian, Shaminda Deensa, and Oyvind Breivik. Ahead of Jack Barker on his debut, moves to P16, Christopher Bates, P17 there for RGV Racing, and then Neil Smith and BJ Alvarez completing your GT3 AM standings. But lastly, we come onto the team's standings top 20 here, ladies and gentlemen. And as we can see, Effect Simulations with that 1, 2, 3 today, it is a maximum haul of 77 points, and it launches them into the lead by the best part of 17 points over UK Sim Racing Hill. What an achievement at this point in the season, and now Effect Simulations will be the favourites going into the second half. However, let's not count out UK Sim Racing Hill. We've definitely had a great first half of the season. They've just had a slight drop-off from round 3 onwards, and they'll look to try and revive it where they can. And today, it was a good sign of them making that revival form. With Civic Esports there, P3 on 245 points, 8 clear of UK Sim Racing Mansell. TU Sim Sport complete the top 5 on 228, 1 point clear of Racing Lab Esports Moser, and then Downforce Racing at TU Sim Sport Corporate, Short Competition Esports, and UK Sim Racing Bell complete there your top 10. And we see P11 at Racing Lab Esports KTM ahead of TT Sim Sport Tire and ProTech Motorsport. I do believe the list of the teams is correct here, ladies and gents, but the points may be a little bit shuffled about, so therefore let's not read too much into the points outside of the top 5. But then we can see behind what is there, the UK Sim Racing Bell and Racing Lab Esports KTM with TT Sim Sport Tire in P12, ProTech Motorsport there on where it's P13, but looking to try and break the way back into the top 10, and the same for Old Dudes and Cars and Empire Motorsport. Race Lab Esports Car X in P16 ahead of Mural.io. Keep your eyes out for Mural.io. They may have joined late on in the season compared to most of their rivals, but they're already making impressions count, and they're ahead of Over Limit Racing with Ignium Motorsport and Tiger Racing Team completing a top 20, and well, a further what is 8 points off the Tiger Racing Team on 119 points P21 is AI Race Summaries DCW Racing, who will be looking to break back in as in the next round. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's broadcast, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the reserve list for this series, or perhaps you want to know a little bit more about the UK sim racing community and what leagues we are currently running, and perhaps want to be on the grid for one of our other leagues or events, well, if you want to know all that and more, the best thing to do is firstly go to our official website. That's at uksimracing.co.uk. There, you could take our easy-to-navigate website and find out all the information you need to become part of the community, or perhaps if you don't want to join us on the website, which you saw earlier on in today's broadcast, you can follow us on social media instead. And the best place to do so is on our official Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _. We can find all the same information, plus also the latest broadcast schedule, but you can also stay up to date with the latest trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, including Swellia Omeda Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swellia Omeda Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain the 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swellia has a coaching course to meet your needs. And when being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PESCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, aiming to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, who we can see they're the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports, and with in-house engineering production facilities which combine Dutch design and high-end craftsmanship, make them the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. We also have Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include but not limited to one-click shopping, Amazon Prime, and Amazon Fire TV. And lastly, SRC Driver Academy, a division of Sim Racing Community. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromise on quality. But why choose SRC? To put it simply, affordable, quality coaching. They're experienced coaches who provide valuable insights on the competitive edge. They make high-quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost, tailored to your needs and goals. When you're looking to learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more, they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racer potential. Do visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. But now, ladies and gentlemen, attentions will turn to the second half of the season, and there's no pause. We are up in the pace, and we are charging into round number 6 in a week's time at the Sebring International Raceway. It's going to be rough, it's going to be bumpy, but on the old airfield of the US of A, will we see repeat winners across our classes, or will we see new names rise as we go into the second half and the tone potentially changes? All that more will be found out when we bring you the race in action as if it were live at a post-round broadcast on Monday, the 30th of October 2023. Save the date, you'll want to be there to see how the story continues. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.